Wait. Let's just hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
Let's just jump in and then you tell me all about it.
Yeah.
We're back to Salt of the Streets podcast.
Some cranky octogenarian. I think he was referring to Bernie Sanders, probably.
Because of Jay Inslee, hydroelectric power is not considered a green energy.
It's not.
Yeah.
Not under James. No.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. No,
Like, how does that make any fucking sense at all?
Because it has the real greenies
Ignorant as fuck.
will tell you that it has an adverse impact to aquatic life environment.
Oh, Jesus.
Because a certain number of fish and small aquatic animals get caught in turbines every year. Blah, 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 blah. It's harmful. We're disturbing nature. Blah, 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 blah.
How many fucking deer die when you're harvesting wheat? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's some ignorant shit.
Yeah. That's why vegans are wrong.
That's why vegans are wrong.
I love it. The upper left. Just upper left. Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why Salt need to be stationed in your rotation with real talk and real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan, because that's what's that? Let's get ready.
And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we're back, baby. And this is
Saturday.
Salt of the Street podcast.
Oh, fuck.
But it is also Saturday.
Oh, my God. Every time we're here, I fuck it up. Like, I don't know what it is about being here that makes me fuck this up.
You're just
I am
too comfortable,
so
bro.
fucking
You're just
sorry.
too comfortable.
That's what it is. I'm so fucking sorry. God damn it. It's Saturday, January 12th, 1:34 p.m.
Wow.
I'm so fucking sorry.
That's too funny. So on this beautiful Saturday, it's been a couple weeks, but welcome back to the Salt of the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary on weekly news, pop culture, and sports, all completely built from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. Join us. Today, as always, we'll be discussing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we'll be continuing our endless efforts to bridge the gap between people and information. As always, we are your hosts. I am Colin.
I am Donovan.
And coming up on this week's show, we've got a lot to talk about. We got a couple weeks we've been out of the game, so we're going to be talking some shutdown stuff.
Lots of stuff.
We just went over it in the pre-show. So if you haven't listened to the pre-show, here's a plug for the pre-show. Go to YouTube, go to saltofthestreets.com. You can find all the stuff for the pre-show, which airs live on the Facebook.
Yeah.
But we're also I want to sneak in a little Farm Bill stuff we meant to talk about last week, but I was sick.
The shutdown.
Sicker than a dog.
We're going to talk about the shutdown. We're going to talk about some personal questions, some personal stories that shaped who we are today.
Because we want you to get to know us a little more.
Talk about pop culture. I want to talk a little bit about the last blog post I did because so many fucking people have talked to me about it since I did it.
Oh, yeah. I know somebody that cried while listening to it.
Yeah. And we're talking about some pop culture. We're going to talk some sports. It's going to be sick as fuck.
Be a good show.
Excuse me. I was just trying to tell you that I watched this movie. Speaking of Ben Shapiro, I watched a movie which has nothing to do with him. Totally the Octoroon that I thought that he said.
That's a in between the pre-show and now talk.
Yeah. So just get that. If you don't know what that is, fucking look it up and you'll be just ashamed that I even said it. So I was watching a movie that has Matthew McConaughey in it, and it's called The Free State of Jones. That's what it is.
I've heard of that.
And he plays a guy who is a Confederate deserter. And then he goes and makes a little town in the swamps where like runaway slaves and shit can live. And there is what do they call it when there's two plots going in a movie at the same time? There's a name for that, right?
Probably.
Like the side plot or the subplot.
Or subplot,
subplot, that's what it is. So there's a subplot of like 80 years in the future where he's got a great-great-great-grandson who is being sued in court because he's 1/16 black and he's trying to marry a white woman.
What a crime.
Yeah, and so
what year is this?
It's got to be 1950, whatever,
Oh yeah,
and
that was a thing, man.
Yeah,
that was a fucked up thing.
Yeah, and then his, Matthew McConaughey's during the 1860s, and it was really like that dude went to jail at the end of the movie, like trying to marry a white woman. He went to jail. Yeah, it was really fucked up.
Nice warm fuzzy you get at the end of the movie.
It was crazy to watch. Yeah, and it's a true story. Like that part is a true story. That guy, like Matthew McConaughey, had a white wife and son, and they left because he was trying to help runaway slaves, and then he ended up getting with an ex-slave when he was in this free state of Jones. And they had kids and stuff, and fucked over homeboy like 80 years later.
Yo, why do you call it Jones?
His name was Newton Jones. He went by Newt.
I mean, Newt.
Yeah, Newton.
Like Newt Scamander.
Yeah.
From Fantastic Beasts.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know that
Great
one.
films.
I haven't seen either of those ones. But you want to know some other shit? I was listening to a podcast that is called Unobscured. That is about Salem witch trials.
Oh.
And so I got all these like really sick name ideas that I tried to pitch to my wife, and she shot them all down, right? So
But for like the next kid?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, we can't change Dax's name now.
No.
I'm committed at this point.
No. So one of them is Increase, because there was a guy. Have you ever heard the name Cotton Mathers?
No.
Well, so played a role in the Salem witch trials, and his dad's name was Increase Mather.
Whoa.
Dog. Like,
I
that's
don't know
a sick
if
name.
Increase Phillips sounds, it doesn't quite roll off the tongue
It's
as well
right.
as Increase Mathers.
The first boy name that I came up with was Merriweather. I was like,
Merriweather.
Yeah. It's
God,
like,
you're historical.
that goes hard. And then there was another guy.
Jordan's sitting in the back just like, no.
Dude hates all of them.
This is all garbage.
There was another guy in Salem whose name was Wait Still.
Wait Still?
Wait Still. His
Wait
name was
Still? Or
Wait
Wait-
Still.
Wait
Wait
Still?
Still Whitcomb. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, that's sick. Shot them all down.
Wait Skill Phillips.
Yeah.
The kid, I mean, all I'm saying is that poor kid's going to get beat up in school a lot. I mean, he's going to
be
have a
so
lot of
tough,
character.
dog. He's going to be so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wait
tough,
Still.
he might find himself in a blind rage on top of some kid just turning his face into mush, which would probably cause problems.
He'll be all right.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are about to fuck on the Colts. Anyway.
I hope so.
So because my wife doesn't accept these names, you guys can check them all out because I'm going to tweet them all out. You can check them out on my Twitter at Salt of the Street and my Instagram at alpaca_Donovan. This is Big Bird Offie over here on both of those things.
Boom.
We have an Instagram for Salt of the Streets. We have a Facebook for Salt of the Streets. You can also find everything at saltofthestreets.com, right? The episodes come out on Monday, blog posts on Thursdays, videos on Tuesdays. We post stuff throughout the week randomly, and it's just who we are. We're balling out here.
And I'm trying to be more active, at least in the social media front, like using my own private stuff to kind of get out there and interact with more people.
Yeah.
This whole partial shutdown thing has really helped
Yes.
because a lot of my homies in the Coast Guard are now going on their first paycheck,
Of
I guess
no
pay
paycheck.
period of no paycheck, which is a huge problem. And I wrote a nice long Facebook post the other day about how I think people forget that the Coast Guard is actually a branch of the military.
Yeah.
They're just not funded through DOD.
Yeah.
And they're funded through DHS, which is essentially the target agency right now during the shutdown because, underneath DHS, you also have border security and so on and so forth.
Miss Nielsen up there.
Yeah.
Miss Secretary. Madam
Yeah.
Secretary.
Madam Secretary. And so, a lot of my old shipmates and, some of the people that they're out now are, I've been really happy to hear a lot of people, ex-Coasties are trying to, they're swinging by their local Coast Guard station and be like, hey, what can I do to help? Can I go get like gift certificates or something to help,
That's dope.
because a lot of these people, and I mean, we can get into more of this talk later, of course, but a lot of the, the kind of the more junior people in the military,
Mhm.
their base pay is well below the poverty line.
Right.
I mean, like E3, E4, I mean, you're barely making
dick.
ends meet. And the Coast Guard has, certain allowances and cost of living allowances and stuff like that you get on top of your base salary, which, you could do all right in, but if you're not getting paid, you're just not getting paid.
Right.
And there's a lot of people now that are going to have, younger people that have kind of joined the Coast Guard to be able to start a decent life and to have a nice stable career and supply for their, support their families and stuff, that are now having a hard time just putting groceries on the table.
Well, there's some 800,000 people that didn't get paid this week, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because I think
it's about 800,000 people, federal employees that did not get a paycheck yesterday, because the government shutdown is still ongoing. This is day 22, right?
And I saw something this morning. I think it's the longest in U.S. history, right?
It is the longest in U.S. history, and because the last one was 21 days in 2013. Ted Cruz, who was the main holdup. Point. Yeah, there's a lot of people who call it the Cruz shutdown, but we're not going to call it that. It's the 2013 shutdown. Yeah, because that's one of the things I want to talk about today is whose fault the shutdown is, right?
Okay.
And I don't know that I don't know that we will arrive at a definite answer because I don't know that there is one.
Yeah, I think there's certainly not a single individual you can point at and be like, this is your fault.
But I think it's important to discuss all sides of it. Definitely. Because anybody who's only watching a Fox News or a conservative type of network is only going to see that it's the Democrats' fault. Mm-hmm. But this shit's stupid right here. Chiefs with a touchdown already. And anybody who's watching CNN, MSNBC, anything like that is only going to see, President Trump won't give up on his fucking wall and this and this and this and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that it's quite that simple either way.
Yeah. It's definitely not that black and white.
So I think that it's good. I think it would be good for us to discuss that. We didn't do a show last week, as you guys know, if you are a consistent listener, if you're new. Last week we didn't do a show. Colin wasn't feeling well. Everything's back to normal now, so we're all good here. So we have lots of stuff to talk about regarding the shutdown because there were some things that happened last week. There were some things that happened this week.
Yeah.
And so we
when was Trump's Rose Garden? That was last
Friday.
Last Friday.
Yeah, was the Rose Garden. Because I watched that in lieu of us doing a show.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that instead, and so I took some notes about that. But before that happened this weekend, is there anything else to do in the open, or can we just jump right into this?
YouTube. All the boxes have been checked officially.
YouTube Salt of the Streets.
Now that we snuck into YouTube.
Yeah. So last week, I remember in the beginning of the week, the Daily has been a really great source of information for this, right? Because the Daily, this is like their focus, is the shutdown in different facets. Anytime there's a new thing that happens, the Rose Garden, a new meeting, a new whatever, they're like covering it really well.
Oh, yeah.
So the Daily is really good for factual information, if that's something you guys are looking for. Also, this is great for factual information, so
keep it tuned in right here, baby.
So last week, right, I remember that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were talking about not doing an omnibus funding bill anymore, right? Which I thought was cool off the bat, right? Because we had just talked about the week before that funding the government is such a big deal that you kind of have to do an omnibus bill, right? So I like even just the idea of taking a new look at it because we're in the era where shit's got to change,
Definitely.
So I like the idea of doing that, but there is an underhanded tactic to it that they were trying to fund things individually so they can fund everything besides Department of Homeland Security so that can be a tabled issue to debate afterwards. But they want to continue to fund the rest of the government so 800,000 people don't miss out on checks so that it's just the Department of Homeland Security and not everybody who works for the federal government, right? Oh. Which, to be fair, you could argue is either... So let me think about the best way to say this, right? The stereotypical way that people look at Republicans and Democrats, I think, is that Democrats care more about the people. Republicans care more about money and like funds and shit,
Mm-hmm.
And
fiscal matters.
Yeah, in a very general sense, right? That's like how.
And the reason they're called conservatives because they used to be more on the socially conservative side of things. Yes. Nowadays, that is not the case.
No.
Anybody, it's
both parties
they've both completely changed, manipulate both parties. like to spend a lot of money that they don't have, and that's a kind of a new development over the last decade.
So that's why I say the stereotypical view, right? Because I agree that it is no longer that way, but that's generally how it looked, right? So part of it is old school Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer trying to hold up that same deal where, like, well, we're the Democrats, we care about people. We care about your money and your family, and that's what we're focused on is the people. You know, that's what they're trying to hold up is the Republicans don't care about the people, Democrats care about the people. Republicans care about the money and the wall, and that's what they care about, right? Yeah. So on one hand, that's totally the idea, is that they are trying to make the Republicans look even shittier by putting up different ways to try and fund the government, even though they know that it's not going to get there. Because even if these pass through the House, they're not going to make it through the Senate, right? No. The other hand is that they actually do want people to be making money because it doesn't benefit anybody for no one to be making money, for no federal employees to be making money. It doesn't work better for anybody. Yeah. You know, and that's what I'm going to take it for both of that because they obviously want to make the Republicans look shitty. But I think that nobody wants people to be missing out on checks, you know? So I think there's elements of truth to both of that, right?
There definitely is. And it's important to remember that when you get, like you say, you know, when you get a message from, say, like the Democratic Party speaking through Nancy Pelosi and Senator Chuck Schumer, you know, you're getting one side of this, but there's always more than one aspect behind whatever they're saying. You know, there's a political game they're playing. There's also a kind of a real world implications things they're playing. And there's stuff that they actually really care about. Yeah. And a lot of times the words that come out of their mouth don't actually reflect the words that are, you know, what they truly want to do.
Or even what they're saying in the meeting room when they get there, right? Yeah. Because this all came after last weekend. There was on Friday, there was like a group of, it was 2 weekends ago. There was Mike Pence and a group of other senators that were assigned to take a look at this, at the funding thing, right? And so then after that happened and nothing came of it is when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer came out and they were like, we're going to do 6 different funding packages for everything besides the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. And this is what we're going to try and move with. And I think that was on Tuesday, and there was supposed to be another meeting that day where they talked to the president, and nothing came of that either. And this also came on the heels of the new Congress finally starting, right? Yeah. Because that's kind of what we were waiting for, as the new Congress was coming about. And so that finally happened last week.
The first week of January.
Yeah, where we finally have a majority of Democrats in the House. The Republicans gained a few seats in the Senate. And, you know,
I think here they walked away with 2 more after all was said and done. So they have a little bit more of a majority in the Senate, but it's
about the same. It's not.
About the same, yeah.
With all the things that were overturned, all the filibusters, it's not enough to make a difference in most cases.
Mitch McConnell still rules the Senate.
Exactly. And so that new meeting was supposed to be a group of bipartisan negotiators, and I believe that did happen, but like I said, nothing came of that in the end. And after that happened, after that meeting happened, President Trump, because I have some quotes here, where President Trump got asked, like, what's taking so long? You know, why is this taking so long for this to, for some type of deal to be figured out, right? And he said sometimes that's just how it goes. Like, that's just, you know, that's just the case. And I think that's also something that Chuck Schumer said, you know, is that this is just like, sometimes that's just how it goes, which I can understand, but I just don't feel like when you're looking in the face of 800,000 people not getting a check, you know, I don't think that.
Yeah, because that should be, I mean, they're not wrong when they say, well, this is how it just goes sometimes. Yeah. But that when they say that, it's usually just about, you know, various legislations and bills trying to be pushed through and passed. It doesn't usually revolve around a funding bill, which keeps part of the government shut down. Yeah. And so, and to me, that's another, it points to the fact that this whole shutdown bullshit is all, this is not the place to be having this debate. No. But they've both drawn line in the sand, said this is the way it's going to go. Yeah. And sometimes that's just the way it is.
And then also, because before we get into more bigger conversation, I want to just give like a little complete timeline up until this point, you know. So after these things happened last week, then on Friday, there was a press conference in the Rose Garden, right, where President Trump and Mike Pence talked for a little bit, and then also the minority leader in the House spoke for a little bit. I don't remember what his name is, but he spoke for a little bit. And then they took questions.
Steve Scalise, the House Majority
No, he's
Whip.
the whip, but he did talk for a little bit. But then there was another guy who's the minority leader in the House. Because Steve Scalise is the whip.
What's his name? What's his name?
Mark or Mike something. There's
because he was also on the docket for a
will you
possible.
look that shit up for me? Thank you.
You know, that was the speakership nomination for the Republicans and stuff.
Yeah. But I don't remember what his name is.
God, I can't remember.
And so that happened. I would suggest everybody go and watch it. I would suggest everybody go back, find that Rose Garden ceremony or the Rose Garden press conference and watch that from last week. Because
all you got to do is go to YouTube. It's out there. Various formats.
Because the interesting thing about it, right, is that President Trump has continued to give so many false statistics and false numbers. You know,
Kevin McCarthy.
That's
sorry.
Yeah,
I had to look it up. It's bugging me.
Every time he speaks publicly, he gives false numbers. Every time, you know, whether it's about terrorists on the border or people coming over the border in general or whatever, he's constantly giving false numbers about this, right?
Oh, yeah. It applies to pretty much everything he talks about, going to the trade talks and just about everything.
Yeah.
He always overinflates everything.
And so I have written down here a couple of like the bigger kind of like more eye-opening questions that he was asked and like some of the like weird answers, right, that we can kind of talk about and go over. Because these are quotes that I wrote down here.
Yeah.
Right? Because I watched it live because we didn't do a show. So the first question that I have written down is, what safety net is there for people who need money, who need their paychecks, right, or who need services that come from the federal government, be it food stamps or Medicare, Medicaid, what the fuck ever, you know,
anything.
What's the safety net for these people, right? Yeah. And I thought, and this woman, I think, I don't remember where she was from, but he said the safety net is the wall, right? And he said, the people who need those services agree with what we're doing. And that Border Patrol told me to do what needs to be done. And I think that the people who need that money probably are the people who support this the most, right? I think that is
it's an egregious statement, which is probably not true, but I mean, maybe there's got to be some people who are steadfast enough to believe that
would rather him continue doing what he's doing and take the loss for now than for that to happen. But I also have a really hard time believing that most people who support the idea of a wall, still like a solid concrete barrier, would rather go without a check for the chance of partial wall funding, because as we talked about, it's going to cost $30 billion and we'll talk about that more, but the idea of a solid concrete barrier will cost like $30 billion. So the $5 billion that's being asked for now, it will not even begin to touch what it was required to build that whole barrier. We'll talk more about the whole barrier and security and stuff after this, right? Yeah. But so the people who believe still in a solid concrete barrier, I have a hard time believing that they are willing or are able to go several weeks without paychecks. And like I said, for partial funding of this wall.
Certainly the vast majority of people would rather have a paycheck and continue to deliberate this thing further. I would have to assume there's got to be a probably semi-vocal minority.
Yeah.
That, you know, so that might be a quote-unquote partial truth, because maybe, you know, the people that are going to try to sign up to go talk to the president down there while he's, you know, because he was down at the border Thursday, and then, you know, all the people from Border Patrol that he's been talking to, like, I would imagine you have to be a pretty hardcore supporter to try to volunteer to go do one of those things.
Yeah.
Go, you know, meet with the president and talk about that. And so it wouldn't surprise me that somebody that he meets with from Border Patrol is going to be on his side, essentially. You know, just given the dynamic of who you're dealing with. But I imagine that the vast majority of people don't think that way. It's
right. Do you want this?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to watch out right now.
And then there was a woman who I believe was from Fox News, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought this was really interesting. She asked him...
I'm trying to remember.
She said, how can you say that you are holding your promise to people for a concrete barrier when now you're talking about, doing different things, and you're doing you're talking about a steel barrier, and also you're talking about sensors, and you're talking about technology and whatever. Like, how can you tell those people that you're holding your promise when this is what you're doing?
I love this part.
And this is what I thought was interesting, right? Was as soon as, because then he starts to get into it, right? Because he's like, I'm holding my promise. Like, I'm doing this, and steel's actually stronger than concrete. I don't know if you know that, but steel's stronger than concrete, right?
I love that.
And so after he's doing that, right after he's getting into her and he's really kind of being a dick, I was watching it on the White House live stream. White House live stream ended. It's like, this live stream has ended. Yes, not even like it just cut out. Like, as soon as he starts getting into her, a screen comes up, this live stream has ended.
Wow.
So you tell me, America, no. And it went on for like 25 more minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, way more people asked questions after that.
Because I think I watched it through like NBC or something like that, just on the YouTube.
So you tell me, America, was that coincidence or fucking plan that the moment he starts being a dick, the White House stream ends?
I see Sarah Sanders like busting down the door of the communication
you turn that
room.
Shit off right now.
Punch it off! Punch it off!
So I thought that was really interesting. So he tears into her. He's not any more aggressive than he is normally, but definitely is like his Trump aggressive self.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't give her the full Acosta treatment.
No.
But it was a slight version of that.
Steel is actually stronger than concrete, and I know you don't know this because you don't do construction, but people who do construction, they would know this. I swear to God, he fucking said that. That's what I'm telling you to go watch it, because this is not. We got that great fucking share from that old woman this week who, oh my God, who said that
classic.
we were a bunch of Democrats and we loved
demons.
We were demons, demonic Democrats, and that we liked drug cartels and
loved drug cartels, and hated borders, and just wanted to open. It was crazy. I love it,
and I really loved that. So
I was like, actually,
so just so you know that that's not who we are. You should go and watch it yourself because it was fucking absurd.
It was.
And so after that happened, right, then he got asked again about people who need, like, what safety net is there for people who need this, right? And what about people who have to pay their rent? Like, what are you going to do about people who need their rent? And he said, most of the people who need the money the most are the biggest fans of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it will last that long. I don't think it'll last that long, but we'll keep doing what we have to do.
That's right.
And
American people are going to have to fall on the sword of the Trump wall.
They also got asked about Congress getting raises, right? Because they're scheduled to get raises in this time where the government is not funded. And he's like, oh yeah, we got to do something about that. Like, word. So like, what are you actually going to do about it? Because you have 800,000 people not getting paid, but these motherfuckers are about to take a bigger check. Like, that's what you're saying to me. And you're like, it's fine. They'll be all right. And then he got asked about, and this is what I was really excited to talk to you about, right? Because he got asked about eminent domain, right?
Yeah.
You know what eminent domain is. I know you do.
Man, it was so hard to listen to him try to talk about what an easement is.
I
wanted to shoot him in the face.
For people who don't know what eminent domain is, baby, do you know what eminent domain is? So eminent domain is the government purchases your land from you at whatever rate they deem is the cost for your land.
Fair market value.
And they can use it for whatever, right? And so there's this big problem where actually Cards Against Humanity, right? They did a thing where you could buy a special package from them for a while, and they were collecting money to buy property at the border so that they couldn't build the wall there, right? And so if those people won't sell their land to the government can use what's called eminent domain and take that land and pay you, like I said, fair market value for it, and it's just ours now.
It has to go through the court system and stuff beforehand.
So it takes years. Takes a really long time to take someone's land for eminent domain, right? But that's a huge problem when you're talking about building something on the border because a fuckload of people live on the border.
Yeah. And I mean, eminent domain, just so we're clear, I mean, this is, every libertarian out there should be completely...
Dude, up in arms.
About this idea of eminent domain, because this is the state, the federal government, just saying that, you know what, you don't get a choice. We're going to take that land from you. Yeah, we're going to give you some money, and so everything's technically legal and all that. But that property that you bought and you own that is by all rights your property, they can just take from you like that. Mind you, they have to go through, there's a big legal stuff they have to go through these days, thank God. But that's what eminent domain is it's the federal government taking your land away from you. For a monetary
value that they deem as appropriate.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's going to be the argument in court is like how much money you're getting and if land is yours and all the stuff and blah, 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 right? I agree. This should be the A1 libertarian issue of the coming years. That your president is literally talking about taking your land. Like that is what is going on. If you are a libertarian that lives anywhere near the border between America and Mexico, you should be freaking the fuck out right now and not scared, fucking mad and frustrated, right? And so he said, after he got asked about that, President Trump said, if we didn't use eminent domain, nothing would be built. We would have no highways. We would have no bridges. We would have no whatever, right? Yeah. And he said, we pay well and we pay fast, right? Which is not the case because it almost always takes years in court, right? Yeah. But that's like neither here nor there. But that's his idea is he thinks that they're going to be able to just push through all these eminent domain cases, but that's not going to be the case because anybody who's not in support of your wall is going to fight you for as long as fucking possible in court to try and keep their land.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Not only because they want to live there, but they also don't agree with your wall and don't want it there, you know? So I thought that was really kind of troubling, that's already on the table as the eminent domain thing, right? But it wasn't super surprising when one of the last questions that he was asked was, had he considered building the wall executively, right? Have you considered, and this is something that's been talked about a lot this last week since this Rose Garden thing happened, is he got asked, have you considered just making the executive decision to build the wall, right? And he said, yes. He said, I have and I can. I could declare a national emergency because of the drugs and the crime and all, all the whatevers that he listed. And at that point, I could then build the wall with the emergency funds that are taken, right? That's something that's been talked about a lot because I don't know that that's something that he is really considering, but it's something that he said that he was considering, right?
Yeah.
And the reason...
The media over this last week has been pushing that more and more.
Yes.
And more.
And I think that is all in effort to make him and the Republicans look worse. You know, that it's definitely. Now it's getting to the point it's such a moral, not even a moral issue.
It's almost a legal issue at this point.
Like for them, it's a... like something they're appealing to their base for, which is like a
campaign.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a campaign promise at this point, and so that's why they're fighting for it. Like it's going to keep going this way, and it's gone to the point that now they're talking about using eminent domain to take people's fucking land to build a wall. And I don't know. I thought that was
it's egregious,
right? And so that's what that's what the media is doing. The problem,
United States government doesn't already have like a 300-foot easement in place along the northern border and the southern border.
Already.
I don't know how that doesn't exist.
Right. Where they're like, you guys can't buy this land here. Yeah.
But, I guess that's neither here nor there. But,
oh, God, KC up 14-0.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Andrew Luck running around.
Just under 5 minutes left in the first quarter.
Wow. And so the thing that's not troubling about it, right? The thing that makes it such an interesting conversation and why people are talking about it so much, because if that's what they're going to do, President Trump is going to try and declare a national emergency, right? He immediately gets access to a fuckload of dollars.
Comes from the DOD.
Like a literal buttload of dollars, right? Yep. And so he gets to do that. But if the reasoning for his national emergency is not air fucking tight, immediately he will get taken to court. And the moment he's in court, the dollars are gone. Because it's got to be solidified that it is a bona fide national emergency or a legitimate national emergency for him to be able to get access to those dollars. So that is a dangerous game to play if the only argument that he is making is the ones that he continues to make, that the media is able to blow up with fucking ease, right? When he's talking about 11,000 terrorists that have been
4,000
that were
4,000
terrorists. Sorry, where does 11,000 come from? Where did that come from? 11,000 something, right?
I don't know. The number I always heard was 4,000.
So either way, 4,000 terrorists that they have apprehended over the last year on the border, right? It's like 7. The real number is 7 or some shit like that.
Single digits.
Single digits,
which,
right?
mind you, one is
a problem, right? I agree. So that's good because I don't want to try and make it seem like it's not a problem because, yeah, even one terrorist is a problem, right? You don't want anybody who's a fucking terrorist in this country, but it's so vastly overblown to like you could almost call it fucking fear mongering. You know, it's just trying to scare people into buying into this wall. And that is not the way that this should be done. And
my major issue about this is this whole, we do that number debate, that number issue where he goes out there and says this number down on, they're getting through the southern border, so on and so forth, or they're being apprehended at the southern border. So this is an emergency. And then we find out later, well, no, that's literally all ports of entry around, including air and all this other stuff that, and the vast majority of people are picked up before they come into the country.
Go on.
But the simple fact that,
Penny,
there was still a number on the southern border that did come through, even though it's in the single digits, that still speaks to the fact that, whoa!
Oh my God.
The show dog
so
attacks.
Difficult. So difficult out here.
So, what I was getting at, Don, the single digit numbers that they're throwing out there that, that are actually factually true. That, that those people have gotten apprehended at the southern border, so on and so forth. That points to the fact that even though we're talking about a wall, the vast majority of the conversation is focused around this thing of the wall.
Yes.
That pulls so far away from the actual issue of our border security and immigration system is completely broken and needs to be fixed. And yes, we may need to throw more money at it to try to figure out, because that's just what bureaucracies do, just shovel more fucking money at it. But it is broken, and the immigration system in general is broken and has been broken for decades.
Yeah.
But now that we're focusing on this wall issue, the real debate that we should be having on how to, comprehensive immigration reform, if you will.
Right.
Like, those debates aren't being had.
No, because, and I think that's a really important point, right? Because so much focus has been made on the idea of the wall, right? Mm-hmm. Which realistically, even the president has started to accept and to concede that the term the wall does not mean a solid concrete barrier everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's even come around to the idea of a steel barrier instead of a concrete one, right?
You saw the pictures of the slat fence with the spikes on the top?
Yeah.
That was some medieval shit right there.
But because he has that promise out to his base, right, of the wall, he has to continue to use that term, even though that's not what he means, and that's not even what he's trying to argue for behind closed doors. That's not even what he's trying to get done anymore. But he has to continue to use that term, right? And this term, the wall, has become so incredibly divisive because it was, for the same time way it was a lightning rod for his base, it was a fucking, not a dog whistle because it wasn't intentional. It was something that scared the shit out of the people who were Democrats and were for Hillary and for Bernie, right? Because all they can think about is fucking the Berlin Wall, or something, some terrible fucking thing that divides people and scares people and is going to hurt everybody. And it's going to be a fucking big waste of money and a blah, blah, blah. Like, it's something so pivotal for both sides that the inability to get away from the term the wall is destroying everything. Like, it is taking away any opportunity for anyone to try and figure something out, because his base is still reading it as a wall, because that's what some of them want, like that solid core base is still looking for a wall. They're not willing to concede anything on it because that means the Democrats win to them, and that's not how this works, because feasibly it doesn't make sense in all areas to have a solid barrier, right? And there's even most of the people who work on the border will tell you, like, the drugs and shit that you're talking about, because 90% of the heroin in America does come through Mexico, right? It does come through there, right? But generally in cars or on people's bodies, not through random open parts of the desert. It comes through actual, like, ports of entry. Hey! Get out of your asshole, man. There's a fucking camera right here. Jesus.
Oh.
Sorry.
So for you audio
I'm
listeners.
so sorry. My fucking cat is over here just snout deep in his butthole. That is horrible, man.
Hey, man. It's cat. Cats do that kind of stuff.
Dick, bro.
Cats are disgusting.
Yeah. So just that term has just become so incredibly divisive, you know?
Well, because a lot of my focus about the shutdown has been on the Coast Guard, right? Coast Guard does a lot of work down south. The insane amount of narcotics that they interdict over the ocean, it pales in comparison. I think I'm using that wrong. It is 10 times more than what comes through the land border.
On the water?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That shit happens all the
So
time.
much
Just
more.
bricks of fucking weed and heroin, cocaine.
Literal tons.
Yeah.
Being shipped out, across the ocean, and the Coast Guard stops that.
They just drop it off.
Yeah.
And then, like, someone else comes and picks it up. And it happens all the time that people just out boating just pick up a fucking package of drugs, that, like, drifted off from all the rest of them.
Yeah, that. And they used to do, I think they still do in some fashion, airdrops. Cartels will do an airdrop, and then somebody will go out in a little speedboat, pick it up, and bring it back.
Yeah.
But there's pictures all the time if you pay attention, like the Coast Guard news of, there's a crew that goes out on a ship and they have a giant mount, like a pyramid of cocaine bricks or heroin bricks or weed bricks or something like that.
Shit's crazy.
Yeah. Not as much weed moving anymore since a lot of people get down with that. But.
And then more states are legalizing it. It's no one gives a shit. I'm going to grab that growler here in just a sec.
Poor favor.
Yep.
I'm just getting thirsty over here.
But nice double IPA for us.
Ooh. There was another point was it Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was governor of California?
The governor?
Yeah, the governor. He was talking about building a wall, was he not? I'm trying to remember.
I think he might have been.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people that have talked about building a wall. Even our boy, Senator Chuck Schumer, back during the Obama administration, had talked about building a physical barrier of some kind, at least.
Yeah.
But
most people are willing to concede that in some places,
a
physical barrier.
Yeah. And so, but my problem with all of this talk is not only is, this wall, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a bad idea. It's probably unnecessary considering that it's 2019 now.
Yes.
And if we actually ran the department, like a modern company in some way and modernized somehow, you probably wouldn't need a physical barrier because we have technology that can... if a car insurance company can track your every movement and track your speed and know how fast you're braking and all these things to give you discounts on your insurance or hike your rates up, you telling me we can't detect people along a southern border?
Yeah.
I don't get that. First of all, it doesn't make sense. I understand the government can't do it because the government can't tie their shoes. That looks beautiful. Nice amber color there. But again, I go back to the root cause of the problem. You put up a wall that's just another Band-Aid. If there's always going to be a criminal aspect of trying to get across the border, right? Because you're trying to do some illegal and illegit.
Yeah.
But I think the vast majority of illegal aliens are coming to seek economic opportunity. They're trying to escape whatever. And if you fix the immigration system, and along with that, it's going to have changes to, say, the welfare state as well.
Yeah.
You look at those two things together and you make it so that it's relatively easy to come into the United States and be able to start working and doing all these things. Maybe I don't have the answers, but you fix those two problems. Illegal immigration is not a problem anymore because people can then just legally immigrate. But it's so damn difficult now and it takes so long that half the time you'll sit there and you spend half your life on a waiting list.
And it seems like that's a big part of the problem from what I'm hearing from every side is that...
But nobody wants to talk about it because it just ends up at this stupid wall issue.
People who do come here legally and are able to apply for asylum, right? It takes them so long to get a court date that people get pissed off that, oh, you got these fucking illegals living here that are just doing whatever. Like, they're able to work and do whatever, but they're not citizens here. They're just trying to live until their court date comes, Yep. And if that didn't take so long, then there's going to be a whole mess of people that aren't as pissed off because there aren't people here working without permits, without some type of green card, without something, for so long. Because that's the problem, is that that's what I think that so many of those people are upset about, the Trump base is upset about, is if you have a green card, you've come here legally. You've done your part where you've come here, right? But if you're here, and even if you are registered on a list that you're waiting for an asylum hearing, they don't give a shit about that. You don't have a green card. You're just a fucking, some fucking wetback, some shit that's coming here to do whatever, that, like, that's a huge problem.
And
half those people are going to get sent back anyway. They're going to be like, this is not legit. You have to go home.
Yeah.
Boom.
And it sounds inhumane, if you will, cruel, but there's some validity into the conservatives at this point, the Republican Party mostly. Most of their immigration change and stuff that they want to look at is moving to that merit-based system.
Yeah.
And so, if you're going to be a net benefit to the United States, we'll let you in, no problem. But if you're going to come in and put strains on our social services, then we don't want you because we're just going to end up paying for you. It's a real problem.
Yeah.
Which is why the two systems need to be looked at hand in hand. Because yes, immigrants from a third world country are, by all rights, not going to be at the same economic level as even somebody in our nation that's just above the poverty line. It's not possible for them to be the exact same when they come in. That's why they're coming in, right? And so I don't know what the answer is, but until you figure out how to make that work, because those people are still needed as part of our economy. And it's always the stereotypical one, but the fruit pickers aren't going to come, these, what's the new generation, not millennials or whatever, but they won't be caught dead. The I generation. They won't be caught dead picking fruit.
Right.
They have no work ethic whatsoever, except for the ones that do, the rare ones that do. And then they have like a weird astronomical amount, and they make millions of dollars by the time they're like 22.
Yeah.
But for the most part, our generations, as they evolve, are not getting more hardworking.
Yeah.
And so we're going to rely more and more on people that are hardworking, and that's going to mean we need to figure out a better way to run immigration because the wall will work. Think about it. You put up a giant barrier all the way across the southern border, wherever you can. Let's just say, in an imaginary world, it's a flat area, and you just run a wall all the way across, and you got 10 points of entry. Not a very efficient system, but for the most part, it should work.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to get around that because
doing a lot of digging and shit. They're doing a lot of digging. Like, that's a real thing. Like, tunnels is a real thing that the cartels use to get shit here. Yeah. That's a pretty interesting beer, is it not? It almost tastes a little bit like a tomato.
I didn't get the tomato, but
yeah,
it's kind of like tangy sweet.
Yeah.
Almost in a way. You can definitely tell it's a double IPA.
It's weird.
The double IPAs are always more full. It's almost like drinking a loaf of bread in a way.
Yeah.
There's so much more extra grain involved. But that's what makes this whole thing, it pisses me off about this whole thing the most. Is we're arguing about this wall, and the way I'm looking at it, I see political games back and forth. This is the two softball teams hitting it back and forth or trying to, this is the longest overtime baseball game I've ever seen in my whole life. We're into like the 23rd inning at this point. It's not stopping anytime soon. And I can't stand it because nobody's actually talking about winning the game.
Right. Well, and that's because, and I agree, right? That's because one side, the Democrats, are talking about not wanting to have the discussion until people are getting paid.
Yeah.
But the Republicans are so set on not getting paid until the discussion has had, that it's impassable. They're not even talking about the same thing. And that's the problem, is it's not even that they're not discussing the issue. Yeah. They're not even talking about discussing the issue because they can't get there, The fucked up thing, when they had that meeting last week and Trump is there and it's the other leaders, He's telling the Republicans, no, I'm not going to budge. You guys have to get behind me. You guys have to get behind me, because there are Republicans who are starting to dissent from that and are willing to start passing budgets because they're up for re-election in 2020, and they need to get them motherfuckers paid. Their constituents need money so that they can stay in office. Yep. There are people who are starting to dissent from that, and he can't handle that. He can't take that. So he's sitting there just telling me, you have to get behind me. You have to get on the train. Republicans need to support me and what I'm doing. And that's not how shit is done.
Because the way his advisors are telling him, this is the way I see it. And if it's not his advisors, it's just him. But if because somebody has to back down. At this point, we are in a Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to back down. And it's either going to be the Dems or it's going to be the president, I'll just say. And
that's pretty much what it is. Because even if the Republicans pass it, he's going to try and veto it. And after that, you got to get 2/3, and that shit's not happening.
Because the Republicans are starting to feel the heat, too. Everyone's starting to feel the heat. But the way I believe Trump sees it is that if he backs down on this, he has zero chance in 2020.
Yeah.
That's what I don't know that he has a
chance of 2020 anyway.
I don't know either. This mysterious Trump base, I mean, if you get some younger, straight-thinking Republican, I can't think of one off the bat.
Ben Sass?
No. Ben Sass is too establishment. He's been around too long. That new representative in the House of Congress with the eye patch veteran.
Yeah.
If he started to blow up his spot and he could primary somebody like Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Because he could get enough Republicans on his side as long as they were willing to, go back to, good governing.
And not
play the game.
And new Democrats, but not in the way of representatives, but in people, right? He can get support of enough moderate Democrat citizens, because the new Democrats in the House are radical as fuck. He's not getting no Ocasio-Cortez and motherfuckers like that on his train, but he can get older establishment Democrats that are more moderate.
Blue-collar Democrats.
Yeah, and then he could get civilians to vote for him.
Blue dog Democrats.
And the blue dogs. And that is absolutely what he can do.
Do you follow him at all? I forget his name. I'll look him up on Twitter. He's a really interesting guy.
Yes, he is very interesting. And I don't know that I follow him, but I see the shit that he does, because it comes out. So it comes out. Yeah, so I see it, and I like him. I like the messages he has are generally ones of unity.
Dan Crenshaw, Representative Dan Crenshaw, I believe from Texas, former Navy SEAL.
He's one of the most undivisive representatives that we have, at least thus far. You know what I'm saying? From what I've seen from him thus far, he is into let's just get shit done. Yeah. That's what I want. I just want to get shit done. I like that. I like a guy who wants to get shit done.
Yeah.
So
he's like a badass former Navy SEAL version of Derek Kilmer.
Yeah.
Just because Derek Kilmer is one of those guys who just, he doesn't necessarily want to be a career politician. He just wants to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Oh, before we move on, side note, I think we might have an actual Democratic contender that is going to be entering the presidential 2020 race.
You think it's
just saw about it yesterday?
Elizabeth Warren?
Absolutely not. Elizabeth Warren's campaign.
Isn't that a joke?
Halted before it even started. She did. What was that live feed thing she did where she's like,
"I'm gonna have a beer. You want a beer?" Yeah.
And her poor husband's like, "Oh boy, this is dumb."
No, I don't remember where we were, but I saw that come up on my phone, and I laughed, and I said to Jordan, Elizabeth Warren will never be the president.
No, never. Over my cold dead body.
Never.
Trying to see, how do I find my own tweets profile?
Yeah.
So, Joe Rogan Experience, episode 1170.
Yeah.
Was a woman by the name of Representative Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay.
Of Hawaii.
Yes.
She took over for Macy Hirono's spot when she became a senator.
Oh, okay.
It was a great interview on the Rogan, and I think
on the Rogan,
and Joe kind of toyed with her possibilities, like, man, you should run for president. Well, she's running for fucking president in 2020. And
I'm sure I listened to that.
She will just say, and, we talked a lot about Ben Shapiro before the show started, but Ben Shapiro has always said that if the Democrats can put up a moderate Democrat who speaks to regular people and that is not an activist, Trump is going to have
he's got a serious problem.
He's got a serious problem on his hands. And I think Tulsi Gabbard could be that serious problem.
I like that shit. I'm going to have to go back and listen to that Rogan because I'm sure I listened to it.
Episode number 1170.
But I'll have to listen
Joe
to
Rogan
again.
Experience.
There's one last aspect of this I think I want to discuss with you, right, is the dollars, right?
So many dollars.
Because I have a really hard time. Okay, before I say that, there's different ways to look at this, right? Because everyone's talking about money. Everyone's talking about we don't have the money. We don't have the money. We don't have the money, right?
Except for,
right? So the problems right off the bat is that the Democrats are being called hypocrites because they are generally the same way that they're stereotypically the people party, right?
The spendocrats.
They are also traditionally, yes, willing to spend way more money to do whatever to get you done, collect more taxes. The government will pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Generally, the way that it gets done, right? The Republicans also are generally way more fiscally minded, way less apt to want to spend more money. You know,
they used to.
Yes, right. And that's what I'm saying generally, right? Generally, stereotypically is that's how that was, where they're, and we talked about that before, where it's kind of a Republican thing to. Do you like this?
I love it.
It's kind of, a Republican thing to cut taxes. When you're not collecting enough money, you complain about the deficit, right? And then you try and you go after the entitlement programs per se, which are food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, shit like that,
government spending.
But then you also want to increase the defense budget. You want to increase things like that need to be done, right?
And that was like we talked about that, I think, during when the budgets and stuff were being passed.
Yes.
I believe this was like the first time Republicans, not the first time, but Republicans spent damn near more than the Obama administration.
Yes.
And it all went to DOD.
Yeah.
It all went to the Defense Department.
And so it's a problem that I think people are running into now where both sides look like hypocrites, right? Because they're both going against what they have traditionally done, where the Democrats are willing to spend more money, it doesn't matter, and they're willing to do whatever. Oh, but now all of a sudden it's about the wall. You don't want to spend more money. And the Republicans are always trying to cut everything out and cut the budget, but now that it's a wall, they're willing to spend more money on it. Yeah. And I think that that's true on both sides, also really interesting, but I think that there are explanations for both of it. Going back to kind of what we talked about the wall being the problem, the term the wall, if that term wasn't there, this wouldn't be such a problem, wouldn't be such a divisive issue, because that's why the Democrats aren't willing to give even $1, is because it's going to go to the wall. They're willing to give money to border security. They won't give money to the wall.
And this goes back to that really, really painfully awkward meeting they had with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump and Mike Pence. And because, and I'll give it to Senator Schumer, because we talked about it, I think, last show. He was sitting there, and every time Trump would say, you don't want to fund the wall, or he's like, we need to fund the wall. He's like, we need to fund border security.
Yes.
Quit saying the wall. You want your wall, guess what, asshole? You can get it if you quit calling it the fucking wall and just call it border security. We'll talk about it. But right now, you keep doing that, I'm not going to take the political loss to give you a win. And that's what this all boils down to right now.
And I think that because like I said, I agree with both of those sides, right? That it's hypocritical for both of those sides. But I think the thing that bothers me the most, right, of both of these things is the argument that, like, oh, well, if you compare $5 billion to the deficit, if you compare to the deficit, it's not, it's just a drop in the bucket of the deficit.
Half a drop in the bucket.
And
I
just cannot logically fucking understand that argument from people that, oh, well, it's nothing compared to the debt we already owe, so why does it fucking matter? Oh, so it just doesn't fucking matter, right? So then why does any of this other shit matter? Why does the money for everything else matter if it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the deficit?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? Like, that is the most hypocritical argument I think that I've heard. Is, well, compared to the deficit, it doesn't even matter. Like, well, fuck the deficit, dude. So it just doesn't matter. Like, so we should it's already so high that we should just keep going for it. That is admitting to the public money doesn't matter. Money is not real. It's not real because we can just continue to do whatever we want.
Well,
like, what the fuck? How are you going to continue to try and continue the charade of money having any value if you're just telling the American public, then, well, it doesn't matter. We'll just add more zeros onto it. We'll just raise the debt ceiling and everything's fine.
Exactly.
Like,
because if we would have never gone away from the gold standard, you couldn't do things like this.
And I don't get it. Like, it's the Federal Reserve, right? Where Trump says the Federal Reserve is our biggest enemy. Not because money isn't real, right? But because, oh, well, they're, inflation and they're raising rates and they're doing whatever. They're doing what they have, the rules they have created in this imaginary fucking system is what they are carrying out. They are playing by the rules that are designed when money doesn't exist, when it doesn't mean anything, right? And I agree. It doesn't. The Office is a silly as fuck show, right? But then if there's one thing that's ever been true come from that show, it's someone is talking to Dwight and they're like, this isn't real. And Dwight says, money isn't real since we got off the gold standard. No shit, it doesn't mean anything. All of this stuff, people buying stuff, it's just fucking numbers on a computer. I don't understand it. I don't fucking understand it. I don't get it, right? It. And if we're gonna...
I had no idea you're so passionate about this.
I just don't understand it. And if
kindred spirits.
Because my thing, and this ties into a broader issue that I thought about this week, right?
Just take a breath.
Feeds into a larger issue that I thought about this week.
Okay.
That is what I feel like it means to be an American, right? And I feel like what it means to be an American is you play by the fucking rules. You accept the way that the hands come out and you just take it, right?
Yeah.
And this is the same problem, like we talked about it kind of when we talked about like the Affordable Care Act, right? My big problem with that was that people didn't try. That you came to a point where it's been passed, whether it was done shitty, it was done sketchy, it was done whatever, it's done. The bill is passed, here we are, play by the fucking rules. Buy the fucking insurance, take the shit, don't go to the doctor, you're fucking fine. But if you do get sick, you have the insurance, and that way the idea can at least come into fruition, right? I didn't love the idea of the tax cuts, but I'm getting more money, I'm taking that shit and I'm putting it into the economy. I'm spending my money the way that it's supposed to be, right? That's what I feel like it means to be an American. It doesn't matter if I didn't like it. I don't love President Trump, but he's the fucking president, right?
That's right.
When you say he's not my president, that's un-American. That I feel like goes completely against the fibers, the core morals of being an American, of accepting an outcome that you don't love, but this is what it is, and I'm gonna eat this shit sandwich, and I'm gonna shit a turd afterwards, and it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And I can't stand that. I can't fucking stand that, and that's where we're at now. That money doesn't matter, so fuck it. We're just gonna do what we want. Like. That's so un-American. That's so fucking communist. Like, that's so against everything. That just, it doesn't even matter. Like, we're just gonna move on to everything. It doesn't even fucking matter. I don't get it. Like,
I don't either.
How can you try and say that you represent the government when you are completely contradicting a democratic republic in the core of
pure essence?
Like, what the fuck? How? How can you even make that argument, dog?
Yeah, and I hate to even try to give these people an ounce of defending, but when people on more of the left side of the spectrum, when they start to call Trump a totalitarian and this thing, that's actually that's actually kind of the root of what they're. Well, I don't think they think that deep, but if you look at it, that is kind of the root of where that should come from, that would come from, if they were actually making a legitimate argument.
Yeah.
But that's because it is, realistically, it is un-American.
Yes.
And it's because and I don't know, I'm not going to say that it's just him. I think he is that.
It's so many people. It's so bad.
So many. And it's been bad since, so we got Trump, Obama, George W., Bill Clinton, ever since the Reagan administration.
I was just going to say that trickle-down fucking economics. That is where I would pinpoint this start at.
At what point, whatever point it does, the date is arbitrary. It doesn't really matter because it happened. But at one point, the Congress and the only thing that makes us a republic, not just a democracy, has started and continued to abdicate their power to the executive branch.
Absolutely.
Little by little, every single year.
Yeah.
And now This is why Trump is the news. This is why Obama was the news. It's because the executive has so much power that they are not supposed to have. They should be sitting in the Oval Office, meeting with diplomats, meeting with world leaders, signing bills,
waiting to just sign shit.
Yes,
waiting
and then
to just
going
sign
out,
shit.
then kicking back in the Rose Garden, throwing some wine back, whatever the heck they do. They should not be legislating the company.
No,
their country, the company. They're not qualified to do that.
Run, dog.
That's the whole thing. But we have turned this republic slowly over the period of a few decades into a democracy.
Yeah.
A pure democracy where, I mean, it's not quite there yet, thank God.
But that's what it's come to, where you're just listening to just what the people are saying, which is not how it should be done.
And this is why, to kind of bring us up to date on this, this Trump situation, the shutdown situation, we had the egregious address to the United States citizens of America on broadcast television.
Forgot to even talk about that. That did happen. Yeah.
That was
his first address to the nation.
There's not much to talk about there because it was all the same exact shit that we just talked about.
Continuation.
And it was so frustrating. The only plus side was no one that was involved wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Donald Trump did not want to be there. The president did not want to be there. And he even said so, that he did it to make his advisors happy.
They told him it was a good idea.
Yeah, which it was not. Don't listen to them anymore, people. And then you had Skeletor and the block of wood that is Chuck Schumer standing there like,
Skeletor is Nancy Pelosi, just so everyone knows.
Sorry. I've called her Skeletor for probably about a decade now.
Just so everyone knows. Because I know, but not everyone knows.
Good call. Thanks for saying that. But, I mean, it was so bad. Thank God it wasn't very long, but they just parroted the same arguments that they've been making for weeks now. And it was such a waste, I think, of, it denigrated...
Waste of America's time.
Yes. It denigrated what those addresses to the people should be. President Obama did a few of them back in the day. He did one, I remember when we got him. Bin Laden.
We got Bin Laden.
September 11th, I know, was another one. Reagan had made a couple of them. Nixon made a couple of them.
Yeah.
But
when they went
it's
into
not for
Desert Storm and
you
shit
don't
like that.
parrot the shit you say on Twitter.
It's not what it's for.
No. And the media had a field day.
Yeah.
They must have had the ratings out the yin-yang.
And that's so the money thing, right? Because that's what we're talking about. I don't have a really hard time understanding that. Yeah. Understanding how anybody can make that argument and expect the citizens to continue to respect the idea of the government. Like when you are telling them, well, compared to the deficit, it doesn't matter, right? And it's not like the representatives are just coming out and saying that, but it's people like Ben Shapiro, like the news networks, like not just him, but he's the one individual I can remember saying that, Mm-hmm. And it's specifically conservative speakers that are saying that, because Democrats are generally like, well, it's fine, it's not a big deal. But it's the conservative news hosts and speakers and pundits that are coming out and saying, well, compared to the deficit and blah, 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 why do the Democrats even care? Like, we don't even care because of whatever. Like, and it's that point that I don't understand how you can expect people to continue to respect America when you're telling them it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And
and it sounds simple, but if we would just get back to the founding principles of what America was supposed to be about and, the general citizenry started caring more about each other and not about what fucking team they belong to, then things would probably work out a lot better. But we're so, for whatever reason, whether it's just the sheer illiteracy and stupidity of the mass public or the way we portray ourselves on social media, because most of these conversations are happening via social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's happening in the media, like the mainstream media circles, what you see on TV, that's all fallout from what's being said. And if we would just divorce ourselves from the shit show that is Washington, D.C. and focus more on our neighbors,
Yeah.
Our friends and our family, our coworkers, the people in our community, they wouldn't have any power and control over us. They can sit here and argue all day. And if we just go, I don't care. You guys are a bunch of dumbasses. Make sure the country runs straight. Make sure that my roads are there. Make sure all my, whatever is there.
Yeah.
Make sure that we're not getting invaded. I'm done with your scare taxes. If we could just collectively divorce ourselves from the stupidity from the federal government, we'd have a much better situation. We're so invested.
Well, I also feel like patience is a problem, right? Because when the government, our beautiful government, right, the Democratic Republic of America was designed, it's designed to be slow. It's designed to take time because those two branches or that branch, the legislative branch, is supposed to have so much power in itself to kind of build something and shape it and figure it out, debate it, and then put it out for the president to be like, looks good, let's do it. You know, it's supposed to take time. But in this world of technology, where with Twitter, Facebook, everything, we expect everything immediately. You know, I bought 3 pairs of shoes last week, right? I was waiting, just constantly waiting for them to come in the mail. Why? It's fucking 3 days. It's 3 fucking days, and I can't wait for pairs of shoes. Like,
it used to take 3 months.
I was fine before I bought them. Was just fine. But now that I know that feeling coming, too. And it's the same thing. Like, now that we have all of that at our fingertips, we know that they're talking about, a legislation for the farm. We know they're talking about the USMCA, shit like that. That while 2 months ago they announced that the USMCA is passed, well, it hasn't even gone through Congress. Yeah. Like, it hadn't even been signed by all 3 heads of state at that time. It just was done being drawn up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, no, we're happy with this, so we're going to send it out.
People are so unwilling to wait for something to come to full fruition. That they expect updates immediately. And that's not how the government is designed to work, because that's how you get shitty legislation like the Affordable Care Act that is done poorly. It's done poorly.
It's thrown together.
And they have to lie about it because it's done poorly. Yep. That's the only way to do it, is because people expect it now. They want it now because that's what we talked about and that's what they expect. So we have to just throw something together. We'll lie about it, and then we'll try and retrofit it afterwards to what we talked about.
Now, how much of that is due to the nature that every time that we perceive a problem, it's an emergency. It needs to be handled. It needs to be done right now.
Right now. Yeah.
And that might be on us.
And I think that also goes into us not... It goes into the same thing of us not trying to do things so quickly that we're not looking at the possible
because the politicians are going to happen. They're going to parrot what their constituency demands in a general, manner. Yeah. But if their constituents say, "Hey, this is fucked up. We need to fix this right now," so on and so forth, and then that spreads throughout. Next thing you know, we have activist legislation. Right. It's all activist legislation. Right. Everything needs to be done right now. It's all immediate. There's no time for good debate. And when there's no time for debate and nobody has any patience, there's no focus on doing what you're supposed to do as a public servant, as a politician. Right. So the whole system breaks down. Yeah. And so as much as I just want to just say this is Washington's fault, it's our fault. It all stems from what we put forth. Right. Mind you, there's a lot to that because the media feeds us things to get us riled up, so on and so forth. And it's back and forth. They know that we watch it. Right.
But it's us by not knowing enough about how the government works, right? By not knowing our basic civics and how it was designed, right? When we see our representatives and our senators giving more power to the executive, we don't even recognize it. No. We don't even recognize generally as a public that that's not how it's supposed to be. Because we don't fucking know. We don't know enough about the government and the country to know that that's fucked up. That is not good. That is, you know what I'm saying? And I am not, and I want to be really clear, right? That I am not by any means making the parallel between President Trump and Adolf Hitler, because they are not the same person. They are not similar. They are not anything like that. I am not making the comparison between the two, right?
When you get down to a very, very complex, we'll just say, not minute, but small details, there are some commonalities.
Right. And the thing that I want to address is something that a lot of people have talked about this week after he made that address to the public, right? Because he talked about using national security as a reason to take control of Department of Defense dollars or what the fuck ever and be able to put that money into the wall, right? That is literally the same thing that Hitler did to consolidate power in Germany. Use the guise of national security to unify powers. Chancellor. Yes.
Yeah.
Use the guise of national security to unify powers and take unilateral control of Germany.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying that they are the same person. I'm not saying the same thing will happen. I'm not saying we're looking at a new Third Reich, a Fourth Reich. I'm not saying any of that. Nothing. I'm not saying any of that. But I am saying that the reason that we look back now on World War II and how did this happen in Germany? How the fuck did this happen? Good Germans, right? People who are just letting shit happen. People, we talked about this a couple weeks ago in Jordan Peterson. People who are saying yes in times where they need to say no so often that when they have to say no, they can't anymore.
Yep.
That is what is happening here.
That's why when you have something to say, silence is a lie. And tyrants feed off lies. Or silence.
Tyranny feeds on lies.
There he is. Damn it. Misquoted JPP.
Yeah. And I
mean, that goes, and that stands time immemorial. It goes back forever. And a lot of people say, a lot of like the more, and I hate to always say this, but the left, the kind of the far left activist types, this Trump is the new Hitler, so on and so forth.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to stay all away from that.
Definitely not the case. But you know what I think this might really be? This is a giant step forward in essentially becoming a pure democracy.
Yes.
Getting away, because what is a Congress these days but kind of a puppet?
All it is now is just a funnel for money. Yeah. That's all it is just a coin purse.
Yeah, they fund the government.
That's it. That is the only service that Congress has now, because at this point the laws are being created by other people. They're being created by the president or by other people outside of Congress that are writing the laws, and they're being paid for by private companies to be put up into Congress, and then they're being passed. It's like that's how shit gets done now.
Now, I don't know if you know this, because this is kind of a deep civics thing. The House of Representatives can pass a piece of legislation.
Yes.
And it goes to the Senate.
Yes.
The Senate usually bumps it back to the House. They send it up to the President. So let's just say this funding bill. The House votes it in.
An omnibus bill you're talking about.
Well, it's just because a funding bill
just to be
by
clear,
nature is an omnibus bill.
We were talking about doing all those. They're doing those. They're talking about doing the individuals. So just to be clear.
So let's just take the standard omnibus funding bill that will continue to fund the government through the end of the year.
Okay.
The fiscal year. Passes the House. Because right now it'll pass the House. No problem.
Yes. Regardless of what's in it.
Yeah. There's enough pressure. Senate, for whatever reason, there's enough pressure. The Senate passes the bill. Goes up to the Oval Office. The president says, no, fuck this.
Yes.
Veto. That bill can still become law.
Right.
By having it's very similar to the impeachment process. A 2/3 majority has to re-vote it back in.
Majority in both houses of Congress.
Yes. Because we, the people, own Congress. We are the Congress.
Yeah.
We can shit all over the executive branch as much as we want to if we have the numbers.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But by choosing to not put bills forth, I get angry about that. And thankfully, there are some people that are pushing for at least things like the Fund the Coast Guard bill and stuff like that.
And that's I can at least appreciate, right? Regardless of what
Give him a track record of vetoing bills.
Regardless of what the spin is on the action, I appreciate that the Democrats are talking about putting up funding bills to get something fucking done. To get something done.
They own the House.
Yeah.
They have the votes. There's enough Republicans that'll vote it through.
This is their shit now.
Yeah. This is their problem, and they need to do everything in their power to get those bills up to the Senate. And if if they put 30 bills, if they try to send that funding bill to the Senate every single week and it keeps getting denied, they're doing their job as far as the American public sees.
Right. You then have a president.
That is a political win.
You then have a president who is hindering the process and not a Congress.
Even before that, you have Mitch McConnell stopping it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that when all those enough senators will come up to a re-election year, there'll be enough political pressure, they'll pass it.
Right.
They will get it to that Oval Office one way or the other if the Democrats in charge continue to push these bills. If they continue to push it up there and it keeps getting denied, throw it back. Nancy Pelosi, a.k.a. Skeletor, she's not afraid to do that. Tell me she's not Skeletor, dude. I'm just saying, okay?
Definitely.
Man. And by the way, congratulations to Nancy Pelosi. I think it's the first woman ever elected twice to speakership.
Yes. Yeah. And she was the first woman to be elected as a speaker.
I absolutely despise her policies and her politics and everything about her public life. But congratulations.
She was also the first person in over half a century to be elected twice as the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
So it's been over 50 years since someone was elected twice, which is a huge deal. And like I said, she was also the first woman elected Speaker of the House. Now she's not only the first woman elected twice to be the Speaker of the House. Which will probably be fucking forever until that gets broken.
In America, we have the greatest healthcare system ever, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have the money.
Right.
Well, obviously she has the money.
Obviously
she has the money because she probably shouldn't be alive right now. I mean, she's still kicking. That's probably the only reason why she got those accolades is because she lives in America and has the greatest healthcare system at her disposal. So shout out to the U.S. healthcare system. So I think I want to put this to bed. We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I think that is about... I don't know if there's anything else that we could really discuss about
so
that.
did we point the finger at somebody? I don't know. That's where we started at this.
And like I said, I don't know that there was going to be one person at the end whose fault it is.
No, definitely not.
But us,
Yeah, I think that's where we kind of landed. It's kind of
we got here because of us, because we don't know enough about what's going on.
Yeah, regardless of what the landscape looks like now, this is a representative government still. This is still a republic. And so we put the people there ourselves.
Yeah.
This is our fuck up. This is our problem. But we need to fix it. And I think we look at the midterms, we're trying.
Yes.
We're doing a little better. We're still putting AOCs out there, which is, whatever. It's good for you Bernie bros, I think. But there is some...
What's an AOC?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Okay. I got you. No,
it's just such a mouthful. Everybody calls her AOC now. And she's out there dancing on top of buildings, reenacting Breakfast Club.
Which is bullshit, right? Because they're like, how ridiculous that, nobody can be respected. Like, first of all, she's pretty cute, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is pretty cute. And it's not like she's fucking stripping on a roof with no clothes on. She's just fully dressed, just out there fucking dancing in college. How is that? Our president said, grab her by the pussy. And you want to talk about how that denigrates the fucking office? Because she's out there dancing in a college promotion video? Grab her by the pussy, he said. And you want to... Oh, she's dancing. All right. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Grab her by the pussy is totally the same thing as fucking dancing fully clothed with a skirt past your fucking knees. Totally the same thing. Ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous.
AOC, Tulsi Gabbard. I think I'll take, Tulsi if I had to vote in a beauty pageant, Tulsi Gabbard's getting the sash.
I would go Tulsi Gabbard as well.
I'm really excited.
Especially when
it feels weird for me to be excited about a Democratic presidential nominee.
Especially if you take Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and stand her next to Skeletor. You know what I'm saying? Like in the scale of Democratic women, like in the Congress. She's pretty good looking,
AOC?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's good.
No, Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, Ocasio-Cortez.
Hey, man, hey, I will say, I used to have...
Yes! Whatever you're going to say, I can't wait for it.
I used to have one of my old captains in the Coast Guard. My old ship captains.
Yeah.
He was kind of a good old boy from, I think, South Kakalaki or North Carolina. One of the Carolinas. And he... hated Nancy Pelosi with every bone in his body.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd always say, it's like, hey, man, she looked good. And I mean, that's not the line. The line was like,
I bet when she was young, she probably
he goes, you know what,
cute.
man? He's like, no, screw that. It's like, I absolutely hate her, but I would definitely drink her bathwater.
Oh, dude. She is hot. Definitely like, I'm not saying now, but a young Nancy Pelosi is hot. That's a thing. That is a thing. That, look.
Good Lord.
You know what I'm saying? Young Nancy Pelosi, she's pretty good looking.
Okay.
Like, that's, you know, I mean, that's an action shot, so that's not going to be as good.
You said it, so I'm going to let you own that for the rest of your life.
I'll take that. A young Nancy Pelosi is kind of hot. I will own that. I am willing to. This is
so funny.
This is a Photoshop picture of Brad Pitt fucking Nancy Pelosi.
Well,
do you see this?
That is definitely interesting.
That's funny. Nancy Pelosi's dream with Brad Pitt. Wow.
Okay.
I love Google.
I'm gonna go throw up now.
I love Google.
Wow. Yeah, Google Images.
Look, they also photoshopped hella cleavage on Nancy Pelosi.
I did see that.
They put porn tits on Nancy Pelosi. This is weird.
Dude,
this is a weird deal.
You don't want to go down that rabbit hole, bro. Just, you need to be careful here.
Strange deal.
You're about to go down to Wonderland.
Young Nancy Pelosi, she's pretty outright. So after this, do you want to take a break real quick?
Yeah, because I want to play my music.
Yeah, so we're going to go and we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and we will talk about some personal and some random questions. We'll talk a little bit about some movies, some pop culture, move into some lighter stuff since we did, an hour and 20 minutes of this fucking.
Yeah, right.
But it was a long time, but I feel like I wanted to do a long time because I wanted to make sure that we were giving good information on both sides of every aspect of this. Because
and I think
it's so fucking confusing.
Yeah, and I think an hour and a half. I mean,
probably enough.
Let's just put it this way. It's been 2 weeks and I missed the hell out of you, and it was great to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So until then, we're Salt of the Streets.
Be right back.
We'll be right back.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we got him.
We got him, ladies and gentlemen of America. We got it. We got it.
Leave it up to Colin and the Donovan, because that's what's that? Oh, let's get ready.
What up, homie? You're on the podcast, baby. Yeah, you're literally on speaker, and I'm recording your voice.
Yep, we're doing it. Welcome back, Salt of the Streets. What up, Chad?
How's it going?
Oh, welcome to the show. What are you calling me for?
We just came back from the break, actually. This is how we're going to come back.
Yeah.
I'm calling you because I found a fucking fantastic deal for a rifle for you.
Oh, you found a rifle for me?
Yeah, $650 comes with a scope, well-made Japanese brand.
What's the scope specs? What are we looking at zoom-wise?
It's a 3 by 9, so it's not the scope I want, but I mean it'll fucking work.
So what?
I think it's a 3.9 by 44. I think
3.9 by 44. Okay.
I think.
I mean, it's a big enough caliber to take down an elk and a bear.
You got like 7 different choices on caliber.
Oh well, who's the what brand are we talking about?
Howa.
How? Oh, interesting.
I'd never heard of them. The guy said they're Japanese. They're really well made. Normally the gun itself costs $650.
Interesting. I mean, Arasaka was a quality brand name up until the Empire didn't exist, so that's got to be good. I mean, Japanese engineering is sound.
They know their metalwork, and they've been hammering out swords for thousands of years.
Exactly. They know what they're doing.
Oh, fuck, I'm going the wrong direction.
All right. Well, I'll give you a shout out after the cast when I get home, and we'll go over it.
Word. Well, I got to run the sportsman to buy target because we have a bow all set up.
10-4, brother.
All right. Well, you guys take it easy.
All right. Later, man.
Peace, dog.
Bye-bye.
Are we recording on the video?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure.
I don't know how good that sounded, but we tried.
No, I'm sure we find it.
So welcome back, everybody, to the Salt the Streets podcast. That was a great way to enter into the show.
That was Colin's brother, Chad. Hi, Chad.
Yeah. Hi, Chad. Chad wants to come on the show real bad.
Oh, I would love that.
And I'm just afraid we're going to have some confrontational topics come up.
No, I would love that.
Fuck it. We're going to do it one day. We're going to roll the dice. We're going to bring Chad onto the show.
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about hunting too, because you're interested in hunting, right?
Yeah.
And before we kind of, poor favor, the growler
Take the rest of that if you want.
Oh,
Probably,
for me?
Yep. Probably isn't a whole glass, but yeah, I got more beer.
We can. I'll give you. We'll split her. Bloop 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 bloop.
Well, here.
And bloop 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 bloop. So other than, we'll just say this: I have finally found, and I think my brother feels the same way because we've been talking a lot lately. My brother is. Don't hate me, Chad. I don't know how old
you are. Younger than you, right?
He was born in 1990, so it's October
28.
1990, so he's 28. But we don't have a whole lot in common. Never really have.
I only met him the one time, and it didn't strike to me that you guys had that much in common.
Right? Like we both play video games. He plays a lot more than I do now, even though he doesn't play a lot now.
So you play Red Dead also?
He played a little bit of Red Dead, but he also works. He owns his own business. He's a farrier, so he's a farrier. So he essentially, like another word for it more commonly is horseshoer. But because of that, he does a lot of blacksmithing and stuff like that. But I don't even know how he really got turned on to it, but he got really into hunting lately. And so he took me out duck hunting last year. Me and him went duck hunting. That was my first hunting experience ever. And I was like chip committed the first time I went duck hunting. I was like, this is going to be my life now. I'm going to hunt and I'm going to bring meat back to the family to offset, the farm raised crap that we buy at the store and so on and so forth. And we've been over this last, month or two, we've been planning this big 10-day hunt that we're going to do out in, I'm not going to tell you where our spot's at. But it's an elk hunt. Northeastern Washington. But it's elk, deer. We're getting a combo license, which is, it's like $115 and you get a deer tag, elk, cougar, and black bear.
Wow.
And we were just talking during the break. I went and I took there's a couple tests you have to take to qualify for certain things so that you can you can prove that you identified this or that the right way. And so took care of that. And
Are you cooking, baby?
We've been.
I just didn't want you to forget. Sorry.
It smells good.
I
smelled something.
I just didn't want you to forget.
Top ramen? That's why it smells good.
You know what? Before you continue, I saw yesterday or was told yesterday that they have infused top ramen seasoning at the wheat store now.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a stoner thing to have.
Yeah. How funny is that?
I have some coffee that I got from one of my friends, and it's like a dehydrated coffee pouch thing that you just like freeze dried thing. You just put it in hot water, and boom, you got weed coffee.
Yeah.
But my problem now is I won't take an edible unless I'm not doing shit all day, just in case. Because sometimes those things, after my RSO experience, I just block out a whole day if I'm going to eat an edible.
Yeah, you're funny.
And but I just haven't had it yet. I got to get into that because I'm sure weed coffee would taste amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so you got your combination tag.
Yeah, and so, but we're planning this big hunt next year. Actually, this year now, it'd be in the fall, October-ish time. We're gonna, I think there's mule deer, white-tailed deer. There's a ton of black bear out there. The combo tag just includes the cougar tag.
Are you gonna?
But we're not going for a cougar.
Are you gonna try and work less leading up to this so that it's not such a shock when you're gone?
No. I'll just dump it on my boss and be like, deal with it, dude. Just because I'm not here for a week doesn't mean you can't not handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because. And actually, I don't know. We'll see how it works out, but that's in October. I got a long time. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. That, and I also need to take some time off for my anniversary in May. The big 10-year anniversary is coming up in May.
Wow.
And surprise, surprise, due to my time in the Coast Guard and then getting out of the Coast Guard, so on and so forth, the wife and I never went on a honeymoon, realistically. And we've never really, every time we take vacation, we go to go see her family, or when I was on the East Coast, we come see my family. We've never really taken a trip other than a long weekend when we went up to Leavenworth.
Yeah.
We've never taken a vacation, just the two of us. And so I think for our anniversary, we're just going to be like, screw everyone. we out. We're going to go have fun. Maybe we'll take a cruise. Maybe we'll go, I don't know. It's in May, so the weather should be relatively nice. I don't know what we're going to do.
James Bond has a cabin up at Cushman.
Yeah.
We could probably, I can't promise you, but we could probably hook you up with.
Yeah, I don't know.
If that's
I'll mention that to her. Because
it's like
I don't think
5 minutes from the lake.
During the break, we talked about James Bond and your relationship with James Bond, and I don't want to elaborate on that any further. I just want him to be known via the cast as James Bond.
That's why I figure we'll just leave it at that. We're not even going to provide context.
Technically family?
Of how I know him. Nope, that's it.
No, just friends.
I'm not providing, I'm not. He's just a guy that we know.
Who is James Bond?
James Bond. But anybody who knows what's good. So, but that's all that matters. So,
but in reference, before we move on, because I meant to mention this earlier.
Yes.
In reference to hunting and so on and so forth, you listen to the Meat Eater podcast.
I love Meat Eater podcast.
Do you watch the Meat Eater show on Netflix?
Oh, yeah.
They have seasons 5 through 7 on Netflix, available right now.
It's awesome.
And between me and my brother, we each went on to the Meat Eater website and we bought the remaining seasons through their streaming service.
Words.
I have a couple, and I think Chad has 3. And so we made up the difference. And so we each kind of coordinate. We're like, hey, log out of your account. I'm going to log into your account
so
and watch those seasons. Anybody wants to watch mine, vice versa.
That's funny.
But I basically, I live 3 things. I live surveying, number 1.
Yeah.
Because that's my day job. 2, I live podcast.
Yeah.
So which means politics, news, staying informed, so on and so forth.
Just in general.
And then my other third pastime is hunting. I do so much research. I watch a ton of Meat Eater. I listen to all the podcasts now, which was really funny because the shirt I'm wearing, if you can't see it on the video, quick preview. This is a gnome packing out a unicorn trophy.
Yeah.
And it comes courtesy of my brother Chad. He bought it for me for Christmas.
Shout out, Chad.
So, shout out, Chad. You'll be on the cast soon, homie, I promise.
And I would like to make it clear, I've never been hunting before. But I find it interesting. I'd like to go. I intended to go this year with my homeboy Cody, but Jordan was pregnant and was like, I can't take off for a week, but,
Yeah, that's true.
Next time. But my intent is to know how to hunt before Dax is old enough to go so that I can then take him with me.
This will be my first year really going out deep and hunting.
Yeah.
So I'll get kind of lay of the land, and then next year I'll take you out.
That would be great.
And then we'll bring back some meat for the Phillips family. We'll get you guys rolling.
Feed that boy some game.
But I've been watching tons of Meat Eater, man.
And that's a great show.
A good show. Steve Rinella is
great. First of all, he's a fantastic writer. So anything that's prepared on there is absolutely incredible. He's probably one of my favorite writers, just the way that he does a show. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
He's also
Anthony Bourdain-esque.
Yeah. He's also incredibly funny, right? Incredibly funny. Where I've told you stories before about shit that he's selling on podcasts. Like there was the guy that accidentally killed the biggest elk to come out of Utah or whatever. And he's like, and I just feel like it's really important that if you're gonna
Carolina she went out to Silverdale yesterday and brought me back one of the.
Oh, she got it for you? That's dope.
This is the small game and fowl
That's awesome.
Cookbook.
That's from the first one that he did?
Yeah, that's volume 2. The other one's Big Game, and then there's the original Meat Eater Cookbook.
Yeah, there's the time where he's talking about the guy who accidentally killed the largest, I think it's the largest elk or deer coming out of Utah. And he said, and I just think it's really important that if you're going to do that, you do with the name Grover.
His name was Grover.
Yeah. And he said shit like that on the podcast before, where he's like, how he's a real coon man? Because his name is Festus. It's that type of shit. But he did do something. I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and he was talking about when his kids were born, he wrote a letter about where he was in his life and where he was just about having that kid and where he was in his mind at that time. And then he sealed it up in an envelope and then put it in like a an air sealer, and then saved it. And it said his intent is to give it to them when they turn 18.
Ooh.
Is to give them that letter, you know? And,
I think.
And I'm going to do that when Dax is born.
Yeah. And that, thank you for setting that up, because that's a perfect segue. We can go right into talking about real life stuff. This thing that hit me a while ago, right? I've been reading this book my wife got me for Christmas. It's called Armada from Ernest Cline, which I know,
Ready Player One.
Yeah, he wrote Ready Player One, which then became a movie last year. Was it last year? It came out. Good movie. Not nearly as good as the book, but it was, they did a good job. But there's a portion in, I would say one of the subplots, because we talked about subplots earlier, is this kind of relationship with this guy's dad, the main character's dad, and how he died essentially before he was born. And he was a young guy, and he had a series of journals that his wife, the main character's mother, had kept and stuff like that. And so he went up into the attic and started reading those journals when he got old enough and learning about his father. Mm-hmm. And so I had talked to my wife about it, and she thought that was a great idea. And she had, I'm not the world's greatest husband, and I know she's mentioned that to me multiple times, but I finally got on board with it. And I was like, yeah, I think I want to start, in essence, journaling. Yeah. And that way, if God forbid something happens to me, and especially with me even losing my father in early adulthood and not really having the chance to get to know him as a person very well, mm-hmm. I would love those kind of things, to be able to go back and learn who he was as a person. Yeah. Because I never really got to know that. And I think that would be a great way, to start writing these journals and talk about life and the things that are going through my head and the experiences and the, friends and fucking podcasts and everything, and be able to put that down and document it so that our kids or our grandkids one day can go back and understand who we were as people. No matter what happens. Yeah. Because, how it is. My grandfather, he has a story that he used to tell us about when he was a kid. He ran away to Cuba one day. And I don't know how much of that is really real. Yeah. But it's a good story. I'll say that. It's definitely a good story. But it would be, what if I didn't, I don't have any surviving members on my dad's side. Yeah. Both his parents are gone. He's gone. He has a brother that I don't really know very well and a sister. But for the most part, my dad remains a mystery to me as far as who he really was as a person. Yeah. And I'm not, God help you, I'm not going to probe my mother for that kind of thing, because I don't want to put her through that emotional stress. Yeah. Of trying to do that. She has a hard enough time with that, especially like still around the holidays and stuff. It's been about 2 years and it's still hard. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so Carolina brought me a really cool, empty journal. Yeah. And so I'm going to start journaling. And she brought back, along with that Stephen Ranella book, she brought back these two kind of pre-done books. One of them is called Your Father, and it's kind of pre-set up to explain certain things. And you go out and you write kind of in a more directed manner. And then she got one that's called Our Story, which is more about her and I's story together and, before the baby came and stuff like that. Yeah. And you guys are right there. This is a good time to start this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think that's pretty interesting. Just looking back, that's something I'm going to start doing. The book helped me there, and the wife helped me there. And I'm going to start doing that this year and start kind of putting some of my thoughts down, maybe not every night, but, every few nights, sitting down and just starting to write this stuff. And that way, God forbid, if something happens, or even if I live to be 100 years old, my grandkids and great-grandkids can know who the hell I was. Yeah. For whatever good that'll do. But I think it's important, and I want to get into it. No, I think that's good. I think, and I can definitely
think probably more than most people I can certainly identify with not know anything about your dad.
Exactly.
I went out to dinner with my mom and my sister earlier this week. Was that just like Thursday night that I did that, honey? And we went to Olive Garden, and then when we were done, we sat in my mom's car for like close to an hour probably and just like chopped it up. And we talked a lot about like the blog post that I did last week. Because after I did that blog post, my grandma called me like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Right. And I grew up with my grandma, right? With my grandma and my mom and my sister. And my grandma says, and her and I are pretty close because we think pretty much the exact same. Like we're just very logical, very scientific, very like matter of fact. Like we're very similar in that way. And she called me and she said, I just wanted to call and apologize because I don't want you to think that we didn't know what you were going through. You know, she's like, I don't want you to think that we were blind to the way that was affecting you, but we just didn't have anybody that we could give to you as a good role model to teach you that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
It happens.
And I told her, I was like, Grandma, you do not have to apologize to me.
Yeah, right.
Like, because I totally understand. I said, and I appreciate it. I said, but I don't even in the slightest begin to blame you or my mom or my sister for not teaching me any of this stuff or not being my dad, because that's not who you are. That's not your job. You know, like that should not have been your responsibility and is not, you know? So that's not, I don't worry about that, you know? But another thing I talked to my mom and my sister about was like I don't know a single thing about my dad. I don't know things that he likes. I don't know if he likes sports. I don't know if he likes cars or music or anything. Nothing. I couldn't tell you anything about who he is now. Yeah. I don't. Like, I could not, you know? And it would... I don't know if I had the opportunity that I would read journals that he had written throughout his life. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the relationship that I have with him.
Kind of based off principle.
Yeah, but I intend to have a much better relationship with my son than I do with my father.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
And I would hope that...
Slightly.
I would hope that at the point that I die, you know, my kid is like curious about, like, I wonder just where he was at, you know, when he started doing the podcast. You know, when he started doing this. And I'm not into...
Even if you live like a long, full life, to be able to get inside.
Yeah.
Really see what your dad was...
And I'm not like a journaling type of guy, but that might be... I would have to wait and see who my kid is. You know, if I feel like that's something he might do, if I feel like he would appreciate that, then I would do that. But I also don't want to, selfishly don't want to waste my time journaling if it's not going to matter when I die. You know what I'm saying?
Have you ever done it before?
Not going to make a difference. I used to journal a lot when I was younger and foolishly threw them away because...
I mean, when you're up for nomination at Supreme Court, you're going to need those journals, obviously. Because I'm going to start slandering you for...
Yeah. And it's not... I have some writing I did when I was a kid, but I threw a lot of it away.
Yeah, so did I.
Like, when I found some shit... I went through some stuff at my mom's house, like, last year when she moved into her apartment, and I threw a lot of it away when I was there. And I don't know why. You know, I just didn't, at that time, didn't want to have them and didn't want to carry them with me. Partially, probably because I didn't want to read them, and partially because, honey, not that I don't love you, but my wife is nosy as fuck. And were I to not hide those journals, she would, in fact, read them. And I don't know what's in there. You know, and not that she's also not rational, but she's also pregnant, and I don't want to have any arguments about some shit that doesn't matter. You know?
That is very fair. That is very fair.
And I don't know that she was pregnant at the time, so I can't say that I took that into account. But
I mean, at the time you wrote those, they were your inner thoughts. I mean, that is about as private as things can go. Can you imagine? I mean, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, but you don't know my wife. Her journal she has in a fake book on the shelf that has a lock on it.
I'll remember that.
So, because her rule, not even a rule, like that's just like a thing she says, like if it's not put away, like I'm going to read it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I don't understand it, so I can't explain it. But that's like,
it makes sense to me.
Such is the reality of my life, you know?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't going to bring anything into my house that I wasn't sure of because I didn't want to talk about it, you know?
Safe call.
Because I didn't want to read it. So I just threw it away. And I don't, now looking back, that wasn't the right call because 30 years from now, I am sure that if I were to show Dag, like, hey, I got these fucking journals from when I was 15. Like, do you want to take a peep into the darkness that was your dad's mind as a 15-year-old? Like, do you want to see what was up, you know? Like, I'm sure that he would say absolutely, but...
And that, I will say, it's one thing this book does address.
Yeah.
Because those journals the main character goes through, they're not always... It's not healthy.
Right.
Because he thinks... I don't want to give too much away because I know Jordan's reading this book. But...
Yeah, Colin, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But I mean, in anybody's life, you know, like you said, like if you're worried about what Jordan might find in there,
yeah,
even though it was from way back in the day or whatever, and even if it's not, even if it's right now and you're with somebody, the stuff that goes through your head sometimes, I mean, the thoughts that you have, nobody needs to see that but you. The only person that knows your inner thoughts are you. And no matter how close you are to somebody, getting too far into their own head can be dangerous to somebody's own, you know, to somebody's inner
and
thoughts.
I used to, so I probably journaled. I've always been into writing, right? Let me go ahead and finish one of these sentences. So I've always been super into writing. And that's from the time that I probably was like 12 or 13. That's what I did all the time, between journaling and just writing stories and doing whatever, right? And so I wrote all kinds of, at one point I was pretty decided that I was going to write a book about my life, you know, an autobiography. And so I had written everything up until, I think I was in like the 10th grade. So I had 3 separate books of like one that was everything up until that point and one that was sophomore year itself. And then one that I started after sophomore year, everything after that. And
you still should, by the way.
And those are some of the things that I threw away in that, you know, in that pile with everything else. And I just used to lie so much. I used to lie so incredibly much, that I can't even begin to keep track of all the things that I ever lied about, you know? And so I can only imagine all the different things I would have to answer for if I just let 10 different people read like one of those journals.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like all the different things that I would have, someone would be like, you said that this happened because of this and this. And I would be like, I can't even tell you why I lied about that at that time. You know, but
it's the nature of a
it's
journal.
just and I don't know at one point to partially address Morgan's question, right? Which was like some stories of things that helped us form into who we are today, right?
Yeah.
That's what she asked us. And this is a vague answer to that, but I don't know at what point in my life I decided I wasn't going to lie anymore, you know? But I remember the one time that I have actually like boldly lied to my wife was before we were married. We were like just dating and I was talking about, still had like pretty strong intentions to join the military, but was obviously doubting what my intentions truly were. And I was like taking some college courses to finish up some other stuff. And so I was supposed to like not be smoking weed or anything, you know, because I was because I was joining the Navy. And
gotta watch out.
And I was sitting downstairs in Jordan's room in her fucking parents' house that I was staying in because I didn't want to stay in my house anymore. And so they had let me move in. And so I was staying in Jordan's room and I'm downstairs using her laptop, doing homework, and I'm fucking smoking weed at the same time. And she came home earlier than I had thought that she was going to. And I heard her, and so I fucking put everything away and did whatever. And then like yesterday said hi, and she was like, "Are you smoking weed?" And I said, "No." And then she went over and like checked the pipe and then went over to the toilet and dumped everything out of the pipe because I didn't finish the bowl because she came home earlier than I thought she was going to. And then obviously didn't say anything, like just sat there and waited. And not fucking 2 minutes later, I was like, "Oh, you know, so I was smoking weed but I, you know, said I wasn't because I didn't want you to be mad and blah, blah, blah." And stupid. right? It's stupid because then she's obviously 10 times more mad then.
Yeah, because you lied to her.
Right, because I had lied about something that was obviously not true.
Look at it. She's got a big old smile on her face now.
She remembers it vividly, I'm sure.
She loves you so much.
And that's the last time that I fully lied to my wife. Not as something like, I'm going to tell you a fib to cover up a surprise for later, because that's some shit that we do all the time. But
definitely
actually boldly lied about something. And like I said, I don't know exactly what point in my life I was like, I need to not be doing that anymore. I need to just be honest about shit because it's going to be easier for me in the end when I do that,
Yeah.
And but I'm sure it was around that time, and I'm sure that's an event that played into that, and that is something I do now, and definitely part of what made me who I am today, that I don't lie about shit. Yeah. I don't lie about things, whether it is my opinion of something or whatever. I don't lie about it. My feelings on something, or how I feel about somebody, or if I like something, or I just don't lie about it. I just don't. It's not something I do because it seems like no matter what, in the end, being 100% honest is the easiest way for me to handle that. Yeah. And there are a lot of people who...
Because you don't have to lie to yourself either.
No. Don't have to keep up with anything. I don't have to try and keep track of any fucking lies that I told or any differences between stories between anybody else. And that is, it's something that I have spoken to several people about, that I have heard them tell stories about, and then I had to say this to this person because I didn't want to do this. So I had to make up a story for whatever. I'm like, why would you not just say that? You don't want to do that. You're like, well, I don't want them to get upset and blah, blah, blah. Well, I understand, but if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it, right? Yeah. You're in your 20s, right? You're 26 years old. Yeah. So it doesn't. So why would you not just be honest about what's going on? This person is taking money from you, right? Why would you not, they're being a shitty roommate, they're doing whatever. Why would you not be honest about what is going on? Why would you continue to let behavior like this happen when you could be honest and things would be mitigated?
Yeah, especially then. Lord.
I have conversations like that all the time, but it doesn't make sense to me why people aren't just more honest.
Yeah.
It is genuinely easier to lead your life that way,
Definitely.
Less shit to worry about.
But you need to be ready and able to... Telling the truth is not always easy.
Yeah.
And
it's not.
And they're generally, whenever it's easier to lie than it is to tell the truth, there's always a consequence of telling the truth that you are trying to avoid.
Yeah.
In all situations, that's why you lie. And when it comes to, say, friends or family or something like that, and, using the example you were just talking about, how they just didn't want to do something, so they kind of, and it sounds like they've made probably made up some excuse to blah, 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 because I don't want to hurt your feelings, because I really just don't want to go.
Yeah.
Or do something or whatever. All you're doing at that point is, it's like you're putting a facade of who you are up so that this relationship that you have will carry on as it did before.
Right. Not just letting it develop the way that it needs to.
Yeah. And I think that's very healthy.
Yeah.
And, that's something, since we're kind of on the topic of stuff that made us who we are today, one of the biggest events, I guess, if you will, of my life that kind of shaped the way who I am today. You talked about how you were more or less dead set on going into the military, right?
Yeah.
Until you weren't.
Right.
Well, I was, and I kind of saw it at the time as more of a necessity than anything else. I screwed off so much in high school. I didn't have the grades to go to college or whatever. Nothing.
Word up.
Yeah. But nothing, not even anything, just to be perfectly honest here, nothing to your level. You have that on another scale, and it's not even like you screwing around. This is just a kid who says, I don't like to fucking do homework, so I'm not going to do fucking homework.
Yeah.
And then I'll hammer it out last minute or whatever. I'll say some bullshit and I'll get out of it. Real good at getting out of shit when I was a kid. Real good. But I ultimately made a decision where I went into the military. And that shaped my life more than I mean, I still discover aspects about my personality that I trace back to my entrance into the military. And that lying aspect is one. I can definitely relate to that. And again, just like you, I can't exactly pinpoint in my life where I decided no more.
Yeah.
It's just, for whatever reason, I don't want to live my life that way. It's so much better to just be honest with people. And I think, actually, it might be post Coast Guard, to be honest, because I started to develop this, I think it's kind of like a superpower, where I have the ability to have a very intimate and close relationship with somebody for a number of years, up to, say, 3 years, 4 years, because it's kind of the standard rotation time in the military. Yeah. And then just piece the fuck out.
Right.
And I'm totally fine with that. And I will never talk to that person ever again. And I'll be perfectly fine with that. Yeah. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing.
But it's a thing you do or are able to do.
Yeah. And I have no problems with it because for whatever reason, there's a point in my life that has changed. There's something in my life that has changed. And there's no stopping that. It is what it is. I'm not going to continue to try to build a relationship unless it's natural. I have Coast Guard friends to this day that sometimes I do not talk to for up to a year at a time. But when we talk, whether it's 6 months or a year, it's like we pick up like it's the day I left.
Yeah.
Like the last time I saw them, nothing has changed. They hold no ill will. I hold no ill will. And we just enjoy each other's friendship and company. Our relationship is the exact same way it was, even though we've grown. And then it's kind of fun because you kind of discover who they are now compared to where they were then.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's no drama. There's no stress in that relationship. When I went to New York this last year and I met up with my buddy, shout out Papa Neil, old Coast Guard buddy that I served with my first duty station in the Coast Guard. And then we went our separate ways after that and I bounced around to other places in the Northeast. We saw each other when we could, so on and so forth. I hadn't seen him for, God, it had been a long 4 to 6 years. I forget when we counted it out when I was there. But I went to New York. He was up in Cape Cod. So we drove up to go meet him and his family. And it was like nothing had changed. It was just picking right back off. But in my mind, if you're not one of those people that can take a relationship for what it is, because we all have lives to live. We all have jobs and wives, families and whatnot, that our situation that we were in when we were friends is obviously not going to be that way forever.
Yeah.
At least, especially in the military. But if you have to hold malice and resentment against somebody because they don't keep in contact with you as much as you'd want, their relationship was never meant to be in the first place. It was best when it was best, and then you moved on, and you are who you are today. Whatever. People change, people's lives move in different directions. It happens. There's no reason to hold on to an old high school relationship because you guys were super close in high school, but now everything's all drama, and you try to make things work, but nothing's ever great, and you start to lie to them about things, make excuses. There's no reason for that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just be who you are, and if the other person can't accept that, you should just be happy with who you are and move on.
Aaron,
there's always other people.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was like,
nope.
And so
just a special shout out. Keep going.
But that's one of, because we started to talk with Morgan a couple weeks, or was it last week, for the show that we missed about things that have shaped our lives. And that, to me, like I say, it's like a superpower and a curse, depending on how you look on it. And that's one of the
I am going to murder Joey.
Me. Oh, what he's a little puppy. I can barely hear him in the headphones. We'll be all right.
No, I think that's good. I think that's a good.
And I will say that
that's a good one.
It doesn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I have run into that with my own wife. We've ran into some issues where she's had some.
She doesn't like it when you don't talk to her for 3-4 years at a time.
Yeah. No, but it's. I mean,
Tubby, come the fuck on.
Realistically, it's only like we don't talk for a week at a time, and it's fine. But actually, no, that's actually legitimate. Because when I was in the Coast Guard, sometimes I'd be out at sea for a few weeks at a time, and we couldn't talk. Just is what it is. But it's a third party looking into someone else's situation. When I see her dealing with some long distance friends that she's had since childhood, that at this point I would consider them dead weight. Like emotional dead weight. They just literally exist.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, they exist to bring, to kind of bring you down, because
this is a perfect show this week.
The relationship that you had back then does not exist anymore, and it will never exist again due to life circumstances.
Yeah.
And you might have been the best friends ever. But if it's not that way anymore,
it's not meant to be.
It's not meant to be, and you have to be able to walk away. You could still have a relationship with them on whatever the terms are that, you can currently make work in life. But if both parties can't agree to that, you need to separate and move on.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. It doesn't matter how long that relationship has been. I don't necessarily... I do. It works for marriage as well. I mean, it's not just friendships and stuff like that. I mean, it all is just relationships in general. But I don't know. Some people call me a cold-hearted person, but I just don't give a shit anymore.
You're just a cold-hearted bitch.
I know. Like, my buddy Jake.
Yeah.
We've known each other since...
Sir Jacob.
Yes. We've known each other since we were in diapers. During my time in the military, we're talking almost 10 years here. We did not see each other very often. We did not talk to each other very often. We had like a mini falling out here and there, but nothing real.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, every time we talked to each other, whether it was 1 year, 2 years, every time I could make it home on leave, maybe every 2 years, like nothing had ever changed. We were still the homies we had always been.
It's because Jake is a stand-up guy.
He is a stand-up guy. And he's more and more a stand-up guy every goddamn day.
And I bet you guys were both the longest babies in the hospital when you were born.
Probably.
Longest baby in this room.
Super personal secret about Jacob when he was a baby.
Oh my God, yes.
That I may tell you after the cast.
Oh, okay.
Just because
2 penises?
I know. No, but that'd be kind of dope. Once I make it big and I'm super rich, I might have to look into that idea. That seems fun.
The double penis.
But
the fabled double penis.
But, it was the ability, to me, that's how you know who your real friends are. If you can disappear off the face of the planet for 2 years, you run into somebody and you can pick back up and carry on like nothing ever happened and everything's fine still.
Yeah.
It's just great. You just have more stuff to catch back up on. That's just good. There's nothing but net good there. You accept the fact that you both are two grown-ass individuals who have two separate lives. And sometimes shit happens and your life goes this way for a while and maybe you get back to it. What's so funny?
Jordan said...
This is good. Instead of a whiteboard, we have cell phones. We forget it's 2019. We have the technology.
She texted me and said, when you said Colin's brother was going to be there for Joe Rogan, which is when I first met Jake and your brother.
That's right. Drastic difference there.
Because they got you... One of your brother got you tickets for Joe Rogan, right?
Yes.
And then Jake went and we went to PF Chang's beforehand.
Indeed.
And which was really pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
And we went there and
solid, mediocre Chinese food.
So Jordan said, when you said Colin's brother was going to be there for Joe Rogan, I thought Jake was his brother.
A lot of people
not his actual brother.
Yeah. Well, especially because we're both tall.
Well, and your brother doesn't look shit like you, at least when I met him with that beard. Doesn't look shit like you.
Nope.
But he also looks way different in the pictures he has on the internet than he does in real life.
With the beard.
Like. Yes.
Yeah.
But I've never seen him without his beard, so I don't know what he looks like without a beard.
True. You just know Mount Chad.
I only know the one Chad that was half drunk when he got to P.F. Chang's, drank more at P.F. Chang's, and then said faggot when we were outside, and was like, he said, I wonder around Cap Hill. He said, I wonder if anyone is going to beat me up for saying faggot here. And I said, probably not if you don't call anybody a faggot.
Yeah.
Like, if you just don't say it, you'll be better off. But if you don't call anybody that, you're definitely not going to get beat up. But if you say that to people, you are likely to get your ass beat by a bunch of gay dudes. Like, that will happen here, and I'm not going to help. Like, I'll watch because you did that. You know?
Bro, I'm sorry, man. You got to learn a lesson here, bro.
And then at a certain point, they separated from our group, and I did not see them again. And that was the last time I saw your brother, was out on Capitol Hill after we had that conversation about him saying faggot, and then he left. So I was like, good meeting you, Chad.
Really, really sad. That person that you met last night, or that night, it's not who Chad really is, believe it or not.
If you just can who imagine. He was that night.
Yeah. And that was just one of those he doesn't get to Seattle much, and he's got some friends over there. So when he meets up with them, he parties hard, parties fast.
Yeah.
And we got mid-party Chad that night.
And I was not a
fan either.
I'm obviously still okay enough with it that I'll let him on the podcast, you know? But I figured that probably was not exactly who he is. That's just who I got that day.
And how noble of you to just assume that.
I like to try, and so because of... Here's another fucking lesson of, how I got here.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah. Because of that honesty and because of the tone that I generally carry and the volume at which my voice is delivered.
So you're whispering right now.
Some people think that I'm kind of an asshole. And I don't blame people for thinking that, because sometimes I'm kind of an asshole. I used to think
you were an asshole.
And that's totally legitimate.
When we first met. I didn't know you yet.
It's so I think maybe the best way to say is the other day I was talking to Jordan's sister about like nutrition, and I tried to, after I talked for a few minutes, then like a couple minutes went by and I thought a lot, like I do, probably overthought it, and then apologized to Erin because I was like, I don't want to like be a dick, I just want to make sure that like all the information is delivered, and I just don't want anybody to be confused. And she said, oh no, I've met you before. And so that's like probably a really good way to put that I was being a dick, but she knows that I wasn't trying to be a dick. It's just because I was wrapped up in whatever I was talking about. And that's like just where I get at, and
I could totally see that.
Brian Johnson put it best the other day when I was listening to Steve David, where he said like you're in it before you even know that you're in it, and that's like how I get. And I saw that the other night when I went to dinner with my sister and my mom, when I cannot wait to tell you this fucking story about this guy that stared at me. But it's like you get wrapped up in something, and like when I talked to the guy at Dave & Buster's too, Spencer with the one hand, like you're in it before you even know that you're in it, and then all of a sudden I'm realizing that I'm at a point where I'm fucking just going on about something that either doesn't matter to who I'm talking to or doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
But because of wherever I was at when I realized that or thought about it, I got really wrapped up in it, and
going down the rabbit hole, man.
Yeah.
It happens.
And so it is not, I don't want to say it's not uncommon, but it has happened before where I have met somebody and then met them again a second time, and they're like, I really kind of thought you were a cock that first time that we met, and I'm like, I'm really sorry that I came off that way, but now that I think about it, this thing happened at that time that we met, and I was up in it, and like, that's where I was at. Like, I was in it. It's, if you met me the day that we came across each other when we were going Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
If you would have met me that day, you probably wouldn't like me very much because I had been drinking earlier that day, and then I sobered up when I was out in public, and then started to get irritated about people staring at us and people staring at my wife and people being rude and just the way people act. And so I was fucking all kinds of,
not to mention it's right around Christmas time and everybody is a nightmare.
So I was all spun up. So if you would have met me that day, nobody would have liked me. You know, I'm sure that the dude that I talked to at fucking the Habit Burger that I talked to that didn't like me that day. And I'm sure most of the people that I talked to in line didn't like me that day. And I know for a fact the woman behind us in line at Ulta thought I was annoying as shit. And I get it, you know. And more of the story, I try and give people the benefit of the doubt the first time I meet them because that may not really be who they are.
Yeah. You never know what kind of day they're having when you first meet them.
Yeah. And I trust that your brother Chad is not the guy to slanderously call people faggots.
Definitely
he doesn't
not.
know, you know?
Definitely not.
And I trust that. I know if nothing more than for the fact that I know who you are, I figure that that's probably not who your brother is.
No.
So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
That's so funny. It really is funny now that I think about it. Man. So I hate to say it, but we could probably do this all fucking day. Do we want to hit any more? Because I got to tell you my bathroom story real quick. Remember pre-show? Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think I really want to try to turn around and get back into the farm bill today.
No. We have some pop culture stuff that we can do, and then we can hit sports, and then we can get the fuck out if you want.
So, because pop culture stuff, I think this will be good because I just want to go right into this pop culture segment. I think will be segued perfectly by the bathroom story. Okay. So, last weekend, Saturday, I was straight garbage. Straight garbage. I started feeling it Friday afternoon. It came on and hit me like a fucking freight train. I was out in the field with my boss, and even then he was just like, dude, are you like feeling
You look
right?
like ass.
Yeah, something's wrong here. You don't. I was like, dude, I don't know. I just never had something like that come on so quick. Just be like, oh no, I just feel like trash now.
Yeah.
And so I spent all day Saturday laying low and trying to do, all the normal things you do when you feel sick.
Elderberry syrup and whatnot.
Elderberry syrup. Yes, this is true. And anyways, Sunday morning, I woke up and I was feeling a little better. I was like, all right, cool. I got to take it easy today because otherwise I'm just going to fucking relapse again. And my wife had been talking about really wanting to go see the new Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
The
cartoon one.
Into the Spider-Verse or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. Let me look at, let's hope that they're playing next weekend because I don't want to go out if I don't have to. And I looked at 2 theaters, and I don't know if they were only saying that a week from now they were showing 3 movies.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think they show all the movies they're playing that week.
Right.
So for whatever reason. So the only day I could see was through the rest of the week through Thursday or Sunday today. And I was like, shit. All right. I'm good. There's a 12:30 show. We'll just go handle it. I'll go watch the movie. I'll come back.
Just go handle it.
Yeah. I'll just go park my ass on the couch. Long story short, maybe we'll hit in pop culture. New Spider-Man movie. Fucking great. Absolutely loved it. But after the movie, I go out and I got to hit the bathroom before we leave.
Yeah, in the movie theater.
Yes.
Okay.
In the movie theater where we saw Vice.
Pause, bro. Word.
Boom. And so,
what a great fucking movie, too.
Yeah, so good.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I go into the bathroom, and it's actually empty, which is weird after a movie. Maybe it's because it was a matinee.
Super weird.
But there's a guy standing there.
Matinee's the way to be, though.
What's that?
Matinee's the way to be, though.
Yes, definitely. So there's a guy standing at the urinal. And first of all, he broke guy rule number 1. When you ever go into a bathroom where there's a line of urinals, if there's nobody there, how do you know which urinal to use?
Go in the one in the corner.
Go in the one in the corner.
Always the one in the corner.
That way, nobody has to walk past you and possibly catch a glimpse of your junk or whatever, right?
Always in the corner.
But whatever. This dude was parked right in the middle.
Why would you do that?
Not only that, he had his phone out like this. And he was peeing and looking off to the side, and his phone was pointed down right at the urinal next to him.
Oh.
Now, there's nobody there.
Put it in front of you, bro. Put it in front of you.
And I'm like, wait a minute. What the fuck are you doing with your phone out in a bathroom, bro?
Yeah.
You're standing at a urinal. Dudes got their dicks out.
Yeah.
You don't pull out a fucking phone in a bathroom. That is... I don't know what kind of rule that is, but it's a very important rule. Just don't do it.
Marcus! So the one concession I will give to that... My cat was licking his butthole. So the one
Cat
concession I will give to that is that I have a shy bladder. So if I am in a public bathroom and I am having trouble peeing, I will pull out my phones and definitely put it in front of me, not to the side, right? In front of me
occupied.
With the screen down so as to show anybody who may be next to me. I am, in fact, not taking pictures. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Down so that it is open for people to see that I am not taking pictures.
See, now
but so as to distract myself, I will do that. To the side is inappropriate. To the side is inappropriate. He should definitely have had it in front of him, like I said, screen up, like almost a flat palm, to show people there is no dick pics being taken here of mine or yours. Everyone's dick is safe in this bathroom. That's important. Dick safety is important.
It's very
if
important.
That's not a clip, I don't know what the fuck is.
Oh, God.
Okay.
So, that being said, I had to pee.
This is the best podcast we've ever done.
Right.
I just like to just put that out there right now.
So, I walk in because I have to pee. There's no two ways about it. I've been sitting through the 15-minute fucking long credits because technically, even though it's made by Sony, it's a Marvel movie, so you got to stick around for the whole thing.
Just in case. Was there a thing at the end of the movie?
Yes, there definitely is, so you have to wait around. Whether or not it's worth it, I don't know. And so I walk in, and I'm going straight to the corner because he's in the middle. It's safe. He's got his phone facing the other way. The stalls, which I would have used just to get away from creepy McCreepster, were all occupied.
Yeah.
And so, that's not a thing. So I found the corner, and I get tucked up in there. And while I'm walking by him, I'm trying to see what the hell he's looking at. Because I want to make sure, if it's a picture, I'm just moving on, and I'll go pee in the woods outside the theater. I don't care. This dude's not catching a glimpse. But he's on fucking Facebook.
Yeah.
Why is a man on Facebook in the middle of the bathroom while he's taking a pee? Scrolling through his feed.
Maybe
what is wrong with you?
Maybe
put your phone away. Maybe it's a shy bladder.
Yeah.
That's
true. The only exception I think of, though, because if it's not that, then why the fuck are you on your phone?
And I
got entirely too much time in the bathroom peeing if you're on your phone and you're not having a shy bladder.
In Mr. Creepo's defense, I did not give him that benefit of the doubt. Maybe because I just never seen it before. It's fucking weird.
For normies like you that don't have a problem peeing in public, you wouldn't consider that maybe it's because I have a shy bladder. And I wouldn't think that it is a common enough problem that might be the case.
True.
I think that he's a weirdo on his phone in the bathroom. I think you're probably right.
He definitely looked like a pee-pee toucher. Just saying.
If you're gonna pick one out of a lineup, it's gonna be him.
Whether he did it or not, if I had to pick him out of the lineup, sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
How many kids do you think that Kanye West and Kim Kardashian
have?
Yeah.
The only one I know of is North.
So how many?
Because Northwest, we're all stupid. It's 2019. We can call our kids whatever the fuck we want.
So how many kids do you think that they have? If you got to put a number on it.
Maybe 2? I don't know. I just know the one for sure. Maybe 2.
4.
Whoa, dude.
They have 4 children. So they have North, Saint, Chicago.
Of course.
And then they have a 4th child yet to be born, correct? Oh. That is in utero with a surrogate mother. So that's why I didn't know that they had 3 kids. Because I only knew about 2.
For those audio listeners, I just made a question mark face.
Yeah, so I knew about 2, but the 3rd one was had with a surrogate, and so was the 4th one. That's why I didn't know about the 3rd one.
Interesting.
So there's that.
So to protect Kardashian's figure.
She had some type of health issues with the second Saint that they did it for safety reasons. But Kansas City is fucking on Indianapolis. It's stupid. It's about to be 31-14. This shit is wild out here.
Good Lord.
31-13. 2.5 minutes left in the
That's
fourth.
one-sided.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the sports. But so now I want to tell you the story when I went to dinner with my sister and my mom the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't spent time alone in years, right? And so we went out to dinner, and my sister is... Okay, how am I going to say this?
Without getting in trouble.
My sister can be a lot to handle, right? And so, so we're in the Olive Garden. In the first, not that I can't also be a lot to handle, right? But my sister particularly can be a lot to handle. So the first place that I got sat down, I didn't like it. So I asked to be in a booth, and it was a problem. And this doesn't really matter, but it was a problem. And the waitresses talked about it in an area where I could hear them, which I thought was really unprofessional. You know, if you're going to talk shit about me, at least do it in an area where I can't hear you.
Whoa, they're talking shit on you?
They're like, you know, it's just about like throwing a wrench in a situation. It's just difficult. And now they have to, you know, who's going to take this table? And this person has more tables, and blah, blah, blah. And I asked before I asked me to move if it was going to be a problem, right? But I also was not given the option when I sat down, booth or table. And because I wouldn't pick booth, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. 100 times over.
That doesn't matter. So we're sitting down, and we get put in a booth that is in the corner of this room. If you can see on YouTube, you know what's up, right? So we're in the corner of this room, and there's a half a wall on this side. And so I'm sitting in the very, very corner, and then the half a wall, and there's another guy right here. Okay. So we can see each other, right? Like, he's like right here.
Yeah, it'd be like...
Yeah, exactly. And so my sister says when he comes around the corner, from the moment he can see me, he stares at me all the way around here, around the corner, until he sits down in his seat, right? She's like, and I know he wasn't staring at me, because if he was staring at me, we would have met eyes, because I watched him watch you the whole time that he walked over here, right? So the whole time this guy's eating by himself, by the way, okay, he is staring at me. Not just staring at me, eye fucking me, right? Like watching me. You know what I'm saying? And I noticed he's looking over, but like I said, I tried to just hope that he's looking at my sister, because I would make me more comfortable if he's looking at my sister than looking at me. And so after a certain point, my sister addresses it. Like, she's like, "Did you notice this dude looking at you?" And I said, "I wasn't sure what he was looking at. I was hoping he was looking at you." And she said, No. Like, he's looking at you. She said, "And not just looking at you, he's eye fucking you. Like, he is looking at you," right? And my sister also speaks at a similar volume than I do. And so she's talking about it at first, it's kind of quiet, and then like we start laughing about it, and it's like kind of a joke. And she's talking in a volume that this dude can definitely hear her talking about, right? And so then she's noticing and explaining that when she talks about it, he looks away. But then as soon as she stops talking, he'll start looking at me again. Right? So then she's talking about it. She's like, and it's super weird, because every time I start talking about it, he stops looking at you. But then the moment that I stop talking, he starts looking at you again. She's like, which is really weird, right? So now she's talking at such a volume that it is inconceivable that this man cannot hear us talking about him looking at me.
Inconceivable.
Right? So we're talking about it. And then it comes to a certain point where we're talking about how we can't understand where, if you can hear someone talking about you staring at the person they're eating with, why you would continue to stay there. Like, why would you not get up after the point that you know we're talking about you?
You've been found out, bro.
You know that, because we're talking so loud that it's impossible you don't know that we're talking about you. My sister's fucking pointing at him. It's impossible he doesn't know, right? To the point that I am literally crying in this booth. I'm laughing so fucking hard. I have to cover my face up, because I can't look at this man anymore, because my sister is still talking about him looking at me and pointing at him and talking about him and why is he still here? And, you know, you're doing all this stuff, and why are you still here? Why have you not got up yet? Like, this is so weird. And then he finally fucking leaves, right? Absolutely. It comes to a point where I'm watching somebody and I can hear them talking about me looking at them. I'm getting the fuck up. I'm paying at the bar, and I'm leaving, right? And if nothing else...
like, did he wait for the check to come, pay, and then...
Yes! He sat down, finished his meal, waited for the check, paid, and then fucking left, while continuing to stare at me in between my sister talking about him staring at me.
Well, Don, in his defense, you shouldn't go out dressed like that.
It was the weirdest fucking thing I have ever been through in my whole life. It was so strange.
That is weird.
It was so weird.
Did you ever once turn and, like,
We met eyes. That dude and I met eyes, and he continued to stare at me. Like, kept looking at me after. I'm telling you, it was the weirdest fucking thing I have ever experienced with another dude. It was so
Don,
weird.
you're a beautiful man.
I appreciate that.
You just have to live with that.
I appreciate that.
That's fucking creepy as shit, though.
So let me talk about something else this week.
I would have fucking freaked out, man. At some point, I would have broken down and be like, dude, what the fuck's going on?
I was laughing too hard.
You're eating by yourself here. Eat your fucking meal. Move on. You're freaking me out. Quit staring at me.
I was laughing too hard. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was crying, bro. And so this week was Jordan's grandma's birthday. Shout out, Grandma. Happy birthday. And we went to the boat shed. And after we left the boat shed, I had like 3-4 beers at the boat shed. And then we came home and we're hanging out. And there's this show on TV that's called The Masked Singer. Have you heard of this show before?
I have. Unfortunately, I have seen the commercial for it.
So
that's all I need to know. America is doomed.
So we're sitting up and I'm smoking a little bit and I'm drinking another beer and, waiting to go to bed. And so we're watching this show. And I found out that I am exceptionally good at identifying people by their voices.
Very well.
I think that we should make a game out of this because the first person that I guessed was... Who the fuck was it? The person in the bunny suit, Diplo. Or no. Fucking Daft Punk, right? Was one of the guys from Daft Punk because just strictly based on the clues that he gave, right? Because it's a bullshit fucking America show where the judges are way too into what's going on and they show different shots of the audience and the audience like, oh yeah, no, definitely that's who it is. Like that's, blah, blah, blah. And there's the audience is also animated and whatever. People probably being paid $25 gift cards just to act like they give a shit, right? So
I hate television. That's why I don't have cable.
And so first person I guess was a guy from Daft Punk because he's talking about he's in a band and, I'm used to performing with a mask on and something, parties or some shit like that, right? And then 2 other people go on and the third person is a guy, clues didn't really help, but he says like he's part of a duo and had some type of life-threatening disease and, now I decided I'm just going to do whatever good. And so I listened to him and there's also like a slight voice changer so it's not just the person's voice or somebody else. And I was like, dude, like 10 seconds and I was like, that's Tommy Chong. And Jordan.
So are they all famous people though?
Yeah. Okay. All the people singing are famous people.
But not necessarily singers.
No, not being. The first person eliminated was Antonio Brown, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're not by any means all singers, right? And so
good. Let's make celebrity as the people who are already celebrities. Yeah.
So I was like, that's Tommy Chong.
Yeah.
And she was like, how do you know that? Like what disease do you have? And I said, I got no fucking idea. I was like, but that's Tommy Chong. Like, I know that. I hear it in my head. That's Tommy Chong, right? And so I looked up on the internet. I said, Tommy Chong disease, right? And I looked it up. First thing that pops up is 3 different articles about Tommy Chong dressed up as this person on this show and is like, new person eliminated from fucking, like, The Mask. So not only was he the guy eliminated, he was fucking Tommy Chong, and I knew it after like 10 seconds of hearing his distorted voice, right?
Speaks to the true stoner within you.
So I also listened to a bunch of metal this week, right? Like metal music, which is really abnormal for me, like really, really abnormal.
It seems very strange to me.
Super weird. Ask Jordan. It's very, very weird. And so I started because I was listening to Tenacious D for some reason, right? So I got into some Tenacious D.
Always fun.
And have you seen the movie they made, Tenacious D Pick a Destiny?
No.
Okay, so they made a movie, and it's... Jordan and I go back and forth on this because she's not a fan of Tenacious D because she feels like it's wasted talent, right? Like that they're so good at this and do not...
Yeah.
This is something we can debate for all time, right? Yeah. So anyway, they made a movie that I'm impressed with simply for the fact that they made a rock opera that is actually pretty quality, right? And so at the end, they get into a rock off with the devil, right?
Yeah.
And so I was listening to some of the songs from that movie came up, and the final battle they do with the devil is on there, and I was like, this sounds like Dave Grohl. Where I was like, that's what it sounds like.
Love Dave Grohl.
So I Googled it, the cast of that movie. Dave Grohl is fucking Satan in that movie.
Yeah!
And I hadn't seen that movie in like a really long time. And I didn't know that beforehand. So we got to make some type of game out of this, right? Where we can find some audio clips for some famous people and just be like, who is this? And see if I can figure that out. Because I'm really interested now if it's just coincidence that I figured out these 2 people on the show and then also Dave Grohl, because I've also heard a lot of those people's voices. You know, like not Daft Punk. I've never heard Daft Punk's voice one fucking time. That's just from the clues that they gave, right? But I've heard Dave Grohl's voice a shitload of times.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Foo Fighters, fucking all that shit, right?
Dave Grohl's awesome.
Queens of the Stone Age, like shit like that, right?
Very well.
Tenacious D is also, or Dave Grohl is also the drummer for Tenacious D.
Yeah.
Right? And then I've also heard Tommy Chong's voice fucking countless fucking times I've heard Tommy Chong's voice.
It's very, very particular.
Yeah.
Say that for sure.
And he was singing, you know, so it wasn't like it was as normal like talking.
Yeah. I can't picture him singing, but I'm on board for some reason.
So that's why I think we should make a game out of this.
I want his album.
And then Bezos is getting divorced, but I want to talk about that next week because I think we'll talk about it for a little while. And I'd like to wait for a little more like stuff to come out about it.
Yeah.
But
that is interesting.
Yeah. And those
on music real quick.
Yes.
Do you like Led Zeppelin?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a band called Greta Van Fleet?
You know who just talked about that was fucking Walt Flanagan.
Really?
I'm fucking telling Steve Dave.
Look at that.
Said that he came across Greta Van Fleet and was like in love with him.
Yeah, I learned about them just the other day from a contractor friend of mine that I was working with, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to their concert this week." Blah blah. I was like, "Who? Yeah, what kind of music they play?"
Yeah.
Well, they like basically sound exactly like Led Zeppelin.
Right.
I was like, word. And then I turned them on to Carolina last night, but I listened to a bunch of them about halfway the way over here.
Real good.
Then I had to switch back over to my Spider-Man soundtrack.
Right.
But yeah, man, they're fucking awesome. If you just couple songs, and if you're into that, you'll be in them.
Word.
Quick.
That's what's up.
Deep.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Chapstick.
Words.
I'm avoiding the nicotine, so it's just like heavy chapstick for some reason. I don't know why.
So I think that's all I have as far as pop culture, and we can go into sports if you want, unless you have anything else that you want to tack in there.
I'm trying to think. Just go watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, man. It was great.
Yeah.
Just great.
And Vice.
You know, we talked. Yeah, one of my bosses actually went and saw Vice.
It was great.
Damn it.
Vice was great.
It was a great movie.
Huge fan.
Filmed very much in a line with The Big Short, right?
Yes.
The same creator, stuff like that. Great movie. And, I mean, I think we could probably say, just knowing what we know about the George W. administration, some of the things that went down during Iraq and stuff, like, you know, it wasn't all just a bunch of made-up liberal shit.
No.
You know? And
that's some real shit.
Some real stuff there, man. It's pretty good, man. Very, very good.
Because the cool thing about a movie like that is it has to be pretty factually accurate because it's so easy for them to get sued for like libel and shit.
It's all contemporary.
Exactly. Yeah. Super interesting. Interesting. That movie was fucking great.
So good.
So do you have anything else for pop culture?
That's good.
All right. So we can hit into sports. So there's a lot of sports. There's a lot of like coaching changes and stuff like that because most of what we cover is football because football is what I work with, right? So the Buccaneers fired their head coach, Dirk Cutter, and then he got hired as the Falcons offensive coordinator, right? Like immediately afterwards. The Jets fired their head coach, Todd Bowles, and he got hired as the Buccaneers defensive coordinator, right? Like right after that. The Bengals fired their head coach, Marvin Lewis. The Broncos fired their head coach, Vance Joseph. And the Dolphins fired their head coach, Adam Gase, and then he got hired as the head coach for the Jets, who just fired their head coach who went to the Buccaneers, right?
Interesting.
The Cardinals fired their head coach, Steve Wilkes, and then they hired a guy named Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach, and he was a coach somewhere else in college before.
Kingsbury, that's such a badass name.
He's like not that good, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the Bears hired Chuck Pagano as the defensive coordinator, who was the Colts head coach, I think, last year. And then 2 weeks ago, week 17, right? The Chiefs just won this divisional round. They just fucked on the Colts. It was
hard.
Stupid. So 2 weeks ago, week 17, Travis Kelce broke the receiving record for tight ends in a season, right? That same fucking day, like not 5 hours later, George Kittle breaks the record that Travis Kelce just broke.
Oh.
So George Kittle then surpassed Travis Kelce for the tight end yards. and got. So he held it for like 5 hours. He held that record, and then immediately afterwards, George Kittle broke that record. Yeah,
I mean, does that work all right? Like when they're making the plaque of like who held the record when? Do you have to hold it for like 24 hours?
Yeah, I don't. I would be fucking pissed. Though.
You don't know?
Yeah,
that's tough, man.
And then after that, Baker Mayfield. He has the most touchdowns by a rookie QB ever, and he played less than an entire season because Tyrod started part of that season.
He did good for me this year. You know, he wasn't great, but he did,
especially towards the end of the season, he started doing really good.
Yeah, I will say that for him.
Saquon Barkley is one of 3 rookies ever to have 2,000 plus scrimmage yards in their first 3 seasons, or in their first season.
2,000 plus?
2,000 plus.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fucking absurd.
That's a lot.
The Saints signed a tight end, Josh Hill. They signed him up to a 3-year extension worth up to $8.8 million. Ooh. Antonio Brown, he requested a trade from the Steelers. Yes.
Word.
Yep, because he got into a fight with Big Ben on the sidelines. He threw a helmet at Big Ben on the sidelines. And then he wouldn't show up to practice the week afterwards. And then they sat him after that. And so he didn't get to play. And now he's talking about being traded. And everyone, the Steelers are like, we're not trading him. We're not doing anything. Yeah, there's all kinds of shit going on. The Packers, they fired their head coach like a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And they hired Matt LaFleur, who used to be the Titans offensive coordinator. And the Buccaneers, they hired Bruce Arians as their head coach, and he used to be the head coach of the Cardinals like 2 years ago.
Back when they were good?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep. Which is good because he's really pass happy, and it looks like he's probably going to keep Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston loves to air that shit out. You know what I'm saying? So that would be good.
We like to watch that as football fans.
Yeah.
The run game is nice, but I don't want to watch it every fucking play.
Right. And
Seahawks.
Injuries don't matter anymore, so let's hit some fucking playoffs real quick. So the Chiefs just beat the Colts 31-13. The Cowboys are going to play the Rams here in like 20 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And then the Patriots are going to play the Chargers tomorrow at 10:05, and the Saints are going to play the Eagles tomorrow at 1:40. And that is going to be the divisional round. And then after that, we're going to go to the NFC and the AFC championships. And then we'll be at the Super Bowl, baby.
Sweet. Does it say who's broadcasting that game tonight?
Let's see here.
Wondering if I can get it from my Hulu Live stream thing.
You can watch it on Fox.
Fox. I can get that on my Hulu Live package.
Fox is all you, baby.
So I get to go home. I get to get up late because I was hung the fuck over. Eat a massive breakfast, come over here, hang out with you for a few hours. Now I get to go home,
watch football,
drink some more beer, and watch football. This is a good Saturday, bro.
Yeah. So that's all I got for sports, so I am ready to hit a line and get the fuck out of here.
Other than the fact that you did not mention the Seahawks, drop the ball. Yeah. It's game over for the Seahawks till next year.
The Seahawks did, in fact, lose last week to the Cowboys by 2. It was fucking bullshit.
Absolutely atrocious game.
We should have Morgan on next week, and we can talk more in depthly about Seahawks lost. Well, we'll see what happens with the baby. The next time I'm on, because next week I may not be on the podcast.
I'm assuming you won't be. And Morgan will be gone. I'll be flying El Solo.
Wow.
Probably.
Should have your wife on. You and Carolina should do a podcast. Even if it's
I had her on for that couple minutes. Remember when you were on breakdown one day? And she was like super nervous, but she had a lot of fun.
Yeah, you should do that.
Interesting. Maybe I'll have one with my brother while you're gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do it with Chad. Oh, yes. Yeah. Do it with Chad. Chad, be on the podcast while I'm gone.
All right. I'll
co-host for me. That would be great.
Yeah, because what's the deal with baby Dax?
Jordan is 2 days past due right now. So on Monday, if she goes in and she's still pregnant, which fucking praying God that she's not, then they're going to do what is called a cervical sweep. And they're going to knock everything loose, knock that plug down. And hopefully she goes into labor shortly after that. And so on Monday, I'm sure they will give us another day that if you're still pregnant by this date, then we're going to induce you into labor, which they put a needle in her arm and they start putting Pitocin inside of her.
Pitocin?
Which is what will start the labor process.
Dang.
So
BT Dubs, I felt super guilty about not getting the blog out like earlier than I did last week. And so I kind of made a hidden promise to you that when you have the baby, I'm going to put another blog post out this week because I know you're going to be fucking busy being a daddy. And so I'm going to take I'll put out the next part of Iran Contra next week.
You're the man.
Iran Contra.
Yeah. You're the man.
Wordism. Give me a line, babe. Let's get out of here.
All right,
I got
you
football
ready?
to watch.
All right, I got a good one. Are you ready, babe? SU in your A's. Don't wear a C and J all over your B's.
Too many letters. Too many letters.